which is the same as the governor of the second most populous state and second largest by land take. And he called that take insane. But that's fine. He can call me insane, but I'm insane like a prophet. You want to know why I'm insane like a
Okay.
prophet? Because I told everybody China was going to cave. And here we are
China
today.
didn't cave.
And
No,
they caved.
China didn't
They
cave.
caved. They
China did
caved
not cave. I knew you.
for the
I knew
world.
you were going to start off of this.
They
China did not
caved.
cave. That's
It looks like they
crazy.
caved.
That's no, it doesn't. No, it
They
doesn't.
they
Hold on, hold on,
caved
hold
like
on.
little whiny
Let's
bitches.
understand what happened here. Okay, let's understand what happened.
Huge Trump W.
China, or Trump hits China with 145% tariff.
Mhm,
China hits the U.S. with 125% tariff.
mhm.
Um, China, like Trump, the entire time is like China's gonna call. They're gonna call us any second now. They're gonna call us. They didn't call. Right?
They called.
He applied that they had conversations. Like the Trump administration kept implying, "Oh yeah, we're having talks to China. Right? Things are happening now. Because they're big and scared." None of that was the case, right? The Chinese keep reiterating, "Yeah, we're not talking to the Trump administration, not at all." Right? Now, finally, they had this meeting in Geneva, where Trump just got rid of like the most ridiculous level of taxation, the 145%, and trying to drop and it's down to 30%, and trying to drop their tariffs down to 10%, right?
Big
But
wins.
well, first of all, the 30% is still a ridiculous number. That means a lot of businesses can't actually pay that. So we're still going to see a massive economic impact there, right? Like we're like even not out of the woods. But the Chinese, what did they give up? What did they give up? They caved. What did they
Everything.
give
They
up?
caved. They
Wait,
caved.
hold on.
They
Yeah,
caved like
so
a bitch.
I want an explanation from you. What they get? What they get? They caved, right? So like,
Trade
what
deal
all
was
the
perfect.
riches?
It was
What
wonderful.
all the riches that they had that the
There's a
Trump
reason
did
why
not?
all the lefties are asking for the transcripts because they can't believe how wonderful the deal is coming
Yeah,
out
yeah,
now.
yeah, yeah.
There's
I'm
a lot
asking
of
for details.
crying.
Hey,
A lot
so
of
hold
crying.
on.
No
You're
one's got
telling
the
you.
details
I
yet.
know.
Nobody's
You're
got
telling.
the details.
Yeah, no one has the details yet. Okay,
Because
all
it's
right.
just
So
been
then we can
announced.
wait for that.
But that's
So we
not
can
the
wait
only
for
way
that.
it was prophetic, by the way. I got one more before you
No,
get so
there's no
mad.
profit here. There's
Oh,
no
there's
profit
another
here. Certainly
prophecy.
not you.
Another
Certainly not
prophecy.
you. Certainly
You
not you.
all
So
remember
hold
when I
on.
said
I'm
that
asking.
Biden
Hold on.
was
I'm
weak and
asking for
they
anything.
nobody was respecting him
Anything.
overseas? We
You're
also
making the
have
claim
this wonderful
now. You're
quote.
making the
Yeah.
claim now that
Mhm.
China caved. So I'm
They
asking
caved.
you, what did they give up?
They gave up
What did the Chinese
all
give up?
they gave up bigly in the words of Trump. That's
Okay,
what they
great.
gave up.
Great.
They
So
gave up
nothing. I
all their
appreciate that.
stances. They
I appreciate
backpedaled like a
that.
bunch of
I
bitches.
appreciate
They said
you.
they weren't talking.
I
Now they're over here
appreciate you
reducing things,
behaving in this
caving to Trump's
conversation.
tariffs.
I
It's all right.
appreciate your unilateral surrender to me
My
in
only
this
unilateral surrender. I
conversation.
mean, you can spin it that way.
Unilateral,
Nobody knows the
unconditional
details.
surrender to
We
me
know that a
in this
trade deal was worked
conversation.
out. The
That
Smiths say it
China
worked
gave up
out.
literally
The
nothing.
Chinese say it
Trump,
was worked
right?
out. They gave
Completely
up
embarrassed
crying,
that like his
weeping,
gambit has not
gnashing
worked
of teeth.
at all,
It's all right.
at
It's weeping,
all,
gnashing of teeth.
right?
It's all right.
Has to go to China, please. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Let me lower
Mhm.
these. Let me lower this down. If they had
Historic
caved,
deals were made.
if
Historic
caved
deals.
completely, then the Chinese would have like dropped their tariffs, right? And
Mm.
Trump would have kept his, right? And he's like, all right, you better like
Historic
work
deals.
out these
Let,
details
let me
before
give you
anything
another
else
win.
happens. But none of that happened.
Mhm.
None of that happened. The Chinese gave
Massive
up nothing,
concessions.
and Trump, right, in
Massive
tears,
concessions.
please, Xi Jinping, please talk to me, right? He's saying that maybe he'll have a conversation
This
with
is
Xi
what we
Jinping
call
by the end
hope.
of the week. By the
I
end,
mean,
no, he said he didn't even say he definitely will have a conversation. He said he'll maybe he'll call me, right?
mhm,
He
mhm,
will wait by the phone, right?
mhm.
Like he's been stood up by his date. He will wait by the phone for
Mhm.
for that call, but it hasn't happened yet. Maybe he'll
Yeah,
call.
I mean, it looks like
Xi's gonna Xi
according
Jinping
to
is gonna
them, and the
decide.
framework
He's like, I
released,
don't
their
know.
IP laws are going
I
to
don't
be
know.
changed. They're going to honor
He's
American
wondering
IP.
like if
That is
I make him
billions and
desperate
billions of
enough.
dollars.
So
Yeah, I mean,
Xi
we got
Jinping
them.
is
We
like,
got
if
them.
I make
Congratulations, we won.
Trump desperate enough, maybe he'll put out. So
But
yeah, I'll
hey,
just make him wait.
let me hit you with two more prophecies. Remember when I said that the reason that we were struggling in the Middle East is because no one respected us? Turns out that was right too. Iran's came out and
Okay.
said behind the scenes that nobody was listening to Biden. They said that nobody respected him because they didn't
I
think he
haven't
would do
heard
shit.
that. I
Yeah,
haven't
well,
heard
don't
that.
worry.
If you have
We got
this, I'll take a look
I
in the
got a
article. I
source
just haven't heard
for it.
that.
I got it. It's for direct
Please
from.
do, yeah.
I posted it in the thing.
Fuck.
For
To
direct,
be clear, and
direct from the
Gibbs,
Treasury
Gibbs, you
Secretary.
already Gibbs. Well,
I
from the
haven't
Treasury
conceded
side. Okay,
nothing.
then I
And
don't believe it immediately.
also, you
If it's from
oh, he
if it's
doesn't
from
believe it.
Bassett, I don't believe it immediately. But
Well, that's
hold on.
crazy.
But you
And I
wait,
didn't
hold on.
concede
No,
anything. I
no,
also mentioned
Gibbs,
what they gave up. IP,
Gibbs.
they're gonna have to follow American
They
IP law.
they
That's what
give
it
them
says in the
nothing.
framework. But
They
you're
give
saying they
nothing.
gave
They give
nothing just
nothing yet.
because
They give
you
nothing
don't
yet.
have the
But like
framework. We know they
they
gave
give
up a
nothing yet.
bunch.
But
That's what we
you already
see.
know. Hold
We're
on.
gonna
You already
see.
know that I love disrespecting Biden every turn, right? So like
Sure.
if you give me a reason to disrespect Biden, I will disrespect Biden. I'm just saying Scott
Mhm.
Bessent is not a reliable source on this. The Trump
You know,
administration in general isn't a reliable
I
source
think
for
he's what you
this,
would call
right? Hold on,
if we were
because
studying this
then
historical
you
document,
believe
this would
everything
be a
when the
first
Biden
person
administration came in
perspective,
after the
first
Trump
person
administration. It was
source.
trashing the first Trump administration, right? For
Direct
all the
source.
mistakes that they were saying they were made. You believe them, right? You believe
Direct
Biden
direct
officials.
source. No, no,
Hold on, the direct source,
hold on.
even in the Biden
This
administration,
is the
you
mental
believe them, right?
gymnastics. Here's the mental
They said
gymnastics
Trump
you're doing.
was a
So y'all
disaster,
are like
right?
over here
They
like
said the
we
previous
need a
administration was a
transcript.
disaster. You
Hold on.
believe that, didn't you?
No, this is
Hold
what's
on. No, give me that
no,
answer. Did you
I will
believe
give you
that?
the answer. I will give you the
Okay.
answer. I believe that the Democrats were lying to us wholesale, right? They covered up the
Yeah,
Biden
they were.
like
They
mental
were lying.
incapacity wholesale.
Uh-huh.
Here's the difference though. I think the Trump administration is telling us the truth. They're telling us too much of the truth. Trump says he's going to do something. Every campaign
It's
message
too
he
much
said he's going
truth
to do,
now.
he is trying to come out and get it done. I'm just saying, just like when he said we got a big deal tomorrow. Well, lo and
It's
behold, trade
it's
deals released
embarrassing.
with China. I'm just saying he said it was going to happen, and it's
There's
like
no
he
trade
spoke it
deal.
into
There's
existence.
no
It's
trade deal. There's no
outwork has
trade
been like
deal.
it's been
There's no trade deal.
it's
Where's the
been
trade
huge win.
deal?
Just what
There's no trade deal.
Hamas
Hold
just
on, hold
saying
on, hold
in
on.
another
Give me that trade
diplomatic
deal. Let me
win.
hold on.
I just
Forward me
posted
the trade deal.
the
No,
framework's been
No,
released.
Gibbs. Forward
The
me the trade
framework
deal.
has been released. It's
Gibbs,
already in the thing.
Gibbs. Forward me
I
the
already
trade deal.
posted the link.
You
I'll
said there's a
post the
trade
link.
deal.
Yeah,
Okay.
trade deal framework's been released.
Yeah. Now we have maybe a framework.
Huge deal.
We have a list of maybes
They've
after
given
Trump,
concessions.
right, hat in
They've given
hand,
concession.
goes to
Listen,
was it
Trump can save
Switzerland
the
and
world
like
from an
begs,
asteroid
please,
tomorrow, and
please,
y'all are complaining
China,
about asteroid
please,
debris. That's what y'all do.
please,
He could
lower
find
the
the
debt.
cure for
Come
cancer, and
back
y'all
to
be
us,
like, "But
China.
the cancer
We don't want
companies,
a
the can,
decoupling.
who's going to pay for the cancer people's
Hey, I'm waiting. Hey, I'm still
children?" Though
waiting.
I'll
Hey, I'm
get it
still
for
waiting
you.
for that trade deal. It's
I
not in my
got it.
inbox
Here it is.
yet.
Here
I'm
you
just
go.
waiting right here.
It's right
Where's
here.
that
It's
trade?
right here. We have the framework of the trade deal.
Looking
It's
for it. Oh,
released.
we got a framework. No, so I don't have the
I
trade
said the
deal.
same
We have
words
a
the whole
framework
time.
for a trade deal,
I
right?
said
No,
right. That's the wrong one.
maybe we have concepts of a
Wrong
deal.
article.
Maybe we have
Wrong
concepts of a
article.
deal. Yeah, maybe. Right? Right?
All right. Here we go.
We're planning. We're
God,
planning a dream.
and
We're
then
planning
what's
a
crazy?
dream
It's
about a
crazy.
trade deal.
It's
Okay.
funny you say this, Prime. And
I'm waiting.
I know you don't even want me to give a
Okay,
point.
so I'm listening.
I'm getting it for you. Don't worry. Here's the thing.
Okay.
What's crazy is I know you're trying to hit it with some spin, and it's cute. But the fact is, every time y'all make fun of like Trump, like oh concepts of a plan, oh of these other things, he follows through and accomplishes something. Y'all are like he's not getting
Okay,
things
all right,
done
hold
in
on.
minis.
You sent me a link from the New York
Hamas is really
Post. Oh boy, very exciting. But I'm gonna
Hamas
look
is
at it.
hold on. You
I'm
go
gonna
ahead
look
and look
at it.
at it while I'm talking. Hamas is releasing the American hostage next week. Big diplomatic win for Trump there. You know,
That is.
Trump.
Yes, that's a win.
That's a big
That's a
one.
win.
Trump's over here accomplishing what he said he was going to do with China. The implication is they're going to change their IP laws
You
to
haven't done
follow
anything
American
with
IP
China
laws.
yet, so I'm
That's
still
all in the
waiting on that.
framework.
But
That's
I'm reading this article. He
literally the
hasn't done
first
it so far.
paragraph. He says that.
Okay.
So
All right.
I
So
mean,
let me read the first paragraph for
yep. So
everyone.
I'll
This is the
talk
first
about
paragraph.
IP.
All right.
There's
The
still the
U.S. and China have
implication being
agreed to a
frame.
deal to help resolve the trade war raging between the world's two
Redo a deal.
economies. The Trump administration officials announced. Okay, great. They announced this. Where's the deal? Details of the deal struck during negotiations with Switzerland over the weekend were not revealed.
Struck
Oh,
were
no
not revealed.
details.
They were
The
exactly.
Trump
They were,
administration
but
said
there's a
there's a
deal
deal,
struck. There's a
has
deal
not
struck.
revealed anything, but
Oh,
officials
so
teased the more information
hold
will
on.
be
Here,
shared on Monday.
here's what's
Okay,
crazy.
great.
Here's what's crazy. I want to show you
There's a
logic real
deal.
quick,
Hey,
Brian.
wait a minute.
Listen.
Hey, do you remember those? Hey, do you remember those 75 countries? Wait a minute.
Well,
Before we
hey,
get to that,
look,
do you remember those 75 countries that Trump said
I
he
remember
was doing a deal
580.
with, right?
I remember
75 plus countries. He said
uh,
he's doing a deal with, right? And then when the press asked him, hey, which countries might these be? It's classified. We can't tell you. No details can be revealed as to what countries have come into us hat in hand after Liberation Days, begging Trump to make a deal because it was all bullshit. And so far, all he's
yeah.
produced All he's produced is a lame ass, right? Nothing burger of a deal with Great Britain, which is a deal. It's a deal. I'll give you it's a deal. It's a nothing burger of a deal, but it's a deal. He got our closest ally in the entire world to finally like do something, and then from there, nothing, no deal. So
I
I'm
mean,
still waiting on that.
that's one way to spin it. The other way is
The
that
Trump
he's negotiating
administration
all sorts of
said
things.
there's a deal,
But
but
here's
then
the
China hasn't said there's a deal, and they produce no information about a deal.
I
So
just want
there's
you
no
to. I
deal.
want you to show. I want you to just do what you're doing right now. All right. I'm gonna do the same logic now. I'm not gonna. I waited for you to finish here. So
Okay.
let me just hit you with this. This is the same logic. So we know that the Swiss have said there's a deal, the Chinese have said there's a deal, the Americans said there's a deal.
When did the Swiss say it's a deal?
And so we know they were negotiating. If there was other people saying there was no deal, there would be news out here coming out here and saying that. However, the Chinese indicate there's a deal, but they are also lowering their tariffs.
Yeah.
That seems like there's an indication there's a deal.
That's not
Everything
an
points to
indication of a
hold on,
deal.
hold on,
No,
hold
it's
on,
not.
hold on, hold on. I know that you. Well, okay, we can debate that, but let's just go through the logic. China comes out and lowers their tariffs. Trump lowers the tariffs. Trump says there's a deal they put in place. China's already spinning it their way. So America's already spinning it their way. Sounds like a deal. Now here's the thing. You're telling me that you're going to go, we want this standard. I have to see the word for word deal right now to believe there's a deal, even though the New York Post is reporting there's a deal. They're a reputable thing. Whether or not you like them is a whole different thing. But they at least meet news store standards.
They haven't reported there's a deal.
Hold on. You can argue this. Hold on. They're reporting.
No, they didn't.
Say that. All right, cool.
Oh no, yes. Oh no. Oh, you changed your sentence because that's
I haven't changed my sentence.
They reported that a Trump official said there's a deal, but they haven't actually given it yet. Now you corrected yourself. Go ahead.
Hold on. I haven't
finished. Correct yourself.
Hold on.
Definitely a deal.
If you interrupt me every 30 seconds, I can't finish the sentence. So you wouldn't even know what my sentence would be. So here's the thing. I know everybody likes to interrupt Gibbs. Here's the best part. So it's being reported. There's a deal by the administration. The Chinese are doing things that are acting like there's possibly a deal. It looks like they're both lowering tariffs. Looks like they came to some kind of agreement. Now you can sit here and postulate, we haven't seen the deal. We don't know it. It's fugazi. Now but until we see that, we can't trust it. Now these are the same people, the same group of people that got up in front of everybody and told us that Biden was mentally fresh fit as a daisy, and that's the same standard. Yeah, sorry, I don't care what your standard is. I'm gonna trust the admin.
Hold on. First of all, once again, I was saying the entire time that they were lying about Biden. You were here, you heard me, right? So we're all on the same page there. Biden lied to the American people. DNC lied to the American people. Kamala Harris lied to the American people when they said Biden brain wasn't melting, right? We already understand that. So don't hit me with that.
Let's just take a quick.
I was an honest actor. I was an honest actor during that moment. You were there the entire time. You watched me say it. So let's move.
Who in the room thinks there was a deal?
I'm asking you now. I'm going to ask you.
I will believe there is a deal when my inflation is over.
Yeah, that's not how that works.
Where in this does it say that Swiss said there was a deal? I missed that part. Maybe I missed it.
Proceeded over it. Just go ahead and read.
Hold on. Yeah, where's I'm gonna Control F. Swiss. No. Oh, Swiss. Okay, Switzer. Who? I'm looking for it. It's Switzerland here. Yeah, they were in Switzerland, but where does it say the Swiss official said there was a deal?
Look! China just admitted there's a deal 5 hours ago. So I mean, if China's saying there's a deal, this is from CNBC. I got it. This is from CNBC. I got it. Hold on. They're saying it's a big win for Beijing, but now they're saying it's a deal, so they're spinning it. So at least now,
I'm waiting for it.
It's a spin. It's saying they got a deal.
Okay, I'm gonna take a look.
What happened to your mic, Gibbs?
What happened to my mic? Do we have the wrong mic?
You sound very far away, echoey.
It sounds fine.
He's got that Chinese deal mic.
No, you sound fine, Prime. She sounds fine. It's Gibbs.
I don't know. I don't think so. I think maybe
Gibbs sounds just as annoying as always to me. But let's take a look. After 2 days,
China's saying there's a deal. So now we're going to be arguing about what's in the deal. But you just said there was no deal, so China says there are. Looks like that's all in bad faith.
There is no
China's
deal.
saying it.
I'm reading it right now, right? Chinese officials in state-run media on Monday casting initial trade agreement.
The title of the article is China sees the U.S. trade deal as a huge win for Beijing. Explain to me in that sentence.
Yeah, it's not a deal.
China sees. Hold on. Read me the title.
I already did. I just did. But
what does the title say?
No. Yeah. It says the title says China sees the U.S. trade deal as a huge win for Beijing. Hold on. But like, what is this deal? All it is that we're
so now we know there's a deal.
That's no deal. Hold on. That's not a deal. That's a reset. Those negotiations are over.
Moving goalposts.
There's a reset.
First there was no deal at all. Now
that's not a deal. But it's not a deal.
Now it's what's in the deal.
So hold on. What are we doing with IP? What are we doing with fentanyl? They talked about fentanyl at the negotiations. There's no deal on fentanyl, right? What are we doing about
we don't know that. You don't know
Chinese imports, right? What are we doing about
how do you know this? You don't even know what's in there. First there was no deal.
There's no deal. Because there is no deal yet. I'm saying I'm waiting for a deal.
I'm waiting for a deal.
I'm waiting for a deal.
So there's no deal until they announce exactly what's in there? Is that what you're saying?
All it is that the Trump administration agreed. Oh my God, we made a terrible mistake. So let's lower 180%. 180%.
Yeah, you gotta get your mic though. You sound like you're in outer space.
I think
Nerd.
I guess. So here, let's just be asking. Oh, I know what it is.
I think you sound fine.
I know why it's doing that. Actually, it's because.
Oh, it's the shared chat that we. Okay.
Yeah, I see.
There you go.
It's fixed.
So, Laxoid, you're a lawyer. Let me ask you a question. Say you and Chai make a deal, and there's a contract signed, or me and Chai make it. Now, Prime doesn't know what's in that. Does that deal exist in a court of law? If Prime doesn't know what's in there, if me and her sign on the dotted line,
is there a contract?
If you both sign it, yes. If you both sign a contract, regardless of whether or not Prime knows, it's a valid contract.
I like it.
And for some reason, I don't think Prime really understands that. Well, go ahead.
Hold on. Is there even a contract?
Yeah, between China and the U.S., there's a deal.
Where's the contract? Oh, you're saying sign a contract. Where's the contract?
They made a deal.
Right, and what does this contract say? So I'm saying all they've done, right? So it's like saying that
we know some specifics.
There was a previous deal when Trump unilaterally puts up the tariffs in the first place, right? And then China responds. Well, see, now we're in a different situation. We're in a different they've talked. There was talks going back between both officials from both sides at the time when that was happening, right? And now there is a new status quo within our trade relations, and then you're saying, well, that's a trade deal. That's not a trade deal, though.
No, wait. They're actually. We know some of the specifics, right? So, for example, so the U.S. Dropped tariffs from 145% to 30%. Yeah, and China dropped their tariffs from 125% to 10%.
That's not the only one. There's also now a trade.
That's what I said at the start. That's what I've been saying.
Okay, well, how's that not a deal?
That's not a deal, huh?
Hold on, there's also other things that have been agreed upon.
To be clear, what I'm talking about, right, is a trade deal, right? Like a trade deal. Hey, how are we going to manage? So comparing that now, I just called it a nothing burger because it's a fucking nothing burger. But comparing that to what happened with the UK, right? With the UK, that's a trade deal, a nothing burger. But in that trade deal, you can look at the trade deal. You can see what we're going to do with trade. You can see
that's the only thing that's been agreed upon.
We also know cars and steel, right? Those are the two big parts of that trade deal, right?
There's also been trade. There's also been trade consultation mechanisms established going forward for further talks.
We'll talk.
It's also been established. No, it's a mechanism. By
that we'll pick up the phone. That's what that means.
Hold on. That means
we're
a lot.
Discord friends. Are you saying that's not a trade deal? That's not fine.
Hold on, Prime.
Keep saying.
Are you saying the red nuclear phone in Russia and the one in the president's office is not a massive negotiating point?
That's not a. No. I'm saying that is negotiations.
So it's something you signed a deal on, though, right?
Stop trying to move the goalposts, right?
Oh, you're the one moving the goalposts.
First, I don't have to.
But it's not good enough for you because you
what you said is that let's rewind. What you've said is that China has collapsed and surrendered, right? Immediately, they didn't surrender, right? That's been my contention, right? And then you're saying there's a trade deal. I say there is no trade deal, right? And then what you respond with,
there is a trade deal,
but they talk to each other. And then there was a lowering of the tariff. but that doesn't regulate the trade. That doesn't regulate
CNBC calls it a trade deal.
Hold on. But it's not a trade deal. I know you're saying the point
earlier was
not a trade deal. Wait a minute, hold on.
Quote earlier. This is your exact quote, Brian. China says there's no trade deal, and I showed quoted
there is no, but there is no trade deal. But there is no trade. Okay, then hold on.
Technically, it was a deal on trade.
I will go back. I'll pull back on one thing. I'll correct myself. Right? China's saying there's a trade. There's a they use a specific word here in the article. It wasn't trade deal, it was something else. Sorry. Fuck, I can't find it. But they didn't say trade deal. They said trade agreement. Yeah, trade agreement. But hold on. No, hold on. But there is no agreement.
Deal. Oh my!
But there is no. Hold on. If I call it right, if I say if I am
Trump could cure cancer tomorrow, they'd be like, but the people that work at the cancer drug factories, bro.
But there is no trade deal. Hold on. All the things that Trump has wanted,
killing jobs, Trump, by curing cancer.
All the things that Trump has wanted, right? As he said, he listed a whole list of demands, right, for a deal, for a trade deal, with China, right? Where are those?
Yeah, he didn't get all of them.
The actual deal that we've been talking about, the deal that I'm talking about, is all the demands that Trump has asked for. Where is that? Where is it? Anywhere?
It looks like we don't know the specifics, but we got him.
Yeah, we don't know because there's not. Because we had no deal.
The Chinese last week, this is a direct quote from one of the guys, is we're not talking to them. We're not going to do nothing. This week they made a deal. Sounds like somebody capitulated.
They did.
Oh, they did.
There is no trade.
Literally, the literal title of that article is China trade deal. That's what they say.
Oh my God, friend.
I mean, you're arguing with
friend.
facts.
So if you're saying there's a deal, but there is an agreement that doesn't cover any of the things that we asked for, that are at the contention, right? Are the things that started this in the first place, right? Like or China subsidizing its industries, right? That's another thing that they've talked about, right? None of that is here. It might come eventually, right? But what do you mean What do you mean? I didn't say there would never be a deal.
Moving goalpost of the century.
Hold on, how is that a moving goalpost? I said I never said there was. Hold on, wait a minute. I never said there was never going to be any sort of deal.
This is like,
you're
like really?
So it's so amazing how you're so desperate for a win. You're so desperate for a win, right? You're so desperate for a win that like you've got to parse my words in every possible way.
You're the one parse
my words in the stupidest ways, and the stupidest ways, and the stupidest.
I'm parsing your words.
Hold on, yes, but where's the deal? I keep asking. Okay, so there's a deal,
it's an agreement, Gibbs. It's not a deal. Where's the deal?
It's not a deal. It's an agreement.
Yeah, hold on. No, but we can call it. You can call it a trade deal. But where's the trade? Where's the details of the trade deals? Right? A trade deal that includes nothing on trade. A trade deal that includes nothing on trade.
Oh, so except for
if you're going to provide me the article, I will reverse myself. When you provide me the article that says that all the things that we're talking, all the things that Trump has, the reason why we're here in the first place, right? Nothing has been addressed. Not a single one. Not a single one has been addressed, right? And when you give me the article that says we've actually addressed those things, well, then I'll say, well, it looks like there's a trade deal. There's a trade deal because there's a deal, right, that demarks how we're going to trade.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Crazy. Crazy. I'm sorry for being so unreasonable. Hold on.
This is real pedantic. I gotta be honest.
They were boys.
Okay, sorry. Hold on. Is there where's the rest of
they came to hold on. This was absolutely a deal. Okay. I know what you're saying. You're saying that like, but it wasn't like the big deal.
The deal.
It wasn't like the deal that I'm expecting them to come to at some point in the future.
Because China said they were doing it.
Yeah, it's possible there may be another like more permanent deal, but this is like a pretty major deal.
Which is what I'm asking for.
This is a major deal. This is a reduction of tariffs. And by the way, for all the shit that like Trump's getting from the lefties about this. First of all, don't give the man shit when he's doing something correct for once here on this tariff question. Yes, drop the tariffs. Good shit. Secondly, You could even argue he's technically still winning because China dropped
their
tariffs. Like China's tariffs are like a third of ours now.
No, hold on.
But China also said they weren't going to do anything, and they
China
totally
never.
backed off, and now
Yeah,
making a deal. That's capitulation.
China.
You go from I won't do
China,
something
no,
to we're making a deal.
China
That's
said originally. No. China never said that they weren't ever going to talk to Trump. No, they never said that. What they said is that we will like to do negotiations if the U.S. comes to us and treats us like an equal partner, right? And apparently that's what happened. Within
this is
June.
what we call communist
well,
propaganda spin.
What are you talking about? That's what they said. That's literally what they said. What are you talking about?
Bullshit.
Anyway, I watched
the clips from the say we ain't doing shit.
Do you have a quote from China? Okay, hold on.
I'll find one. Don't worry. Just like I
they
found
will never talk to the United States.
You haven't provided a single source. I provided sources for everything I've said so far. Just to be clear, none of your claims have been backed up, but I found the sources.
Hold on. My claim. Hold on. My claim is that there's no this agreement, this trade deal isn't the deal, right? And there is no within this agreement. There's nothing that actually manages trade. Not a single thing, as far as I know. So I can't provide you an article with that proves that there's nothing within the deal. That's because there's nothing in the deal. There's a blank page. There's no what are you talking about? So I'm going to give you an article that gives you a blank page because there's nothing there. Anyway,
exactly, because there's nothing to back up any of your claims, but there is something to back up what I've been saying.
Okay. But that
a dunk.
What was I going to say?
From a dunk. Michael Jordan would be that'd be posterizing.
I feel like there is and there isn't a deal because like there's a deal that like Gibbs is talking about, but then there's also not a deal that Prime is talking about. Like there's a lack of the deal that Prime wants, but then there's the deal that Gibbs has.
But this is the point. First, there was no deal, right?
That's
that was the first part of this conversation.
No. The first was
then we have a deal. Now that deal doesn't count. It's not good enough, right? Even though
it's of course not because it doesn't actually include anything.
I'm about to find the TikTok and the videos of the embassy so we can have a little clip so you can see the Chinese ambassador saying this. Just give me a little minute. They are saying we're not going to talk to Trump. He's a little child. He's throwing a tantrum, and then all of a sudden suddenly there's an agreement. That's called becoming someone's baby back bitch. That's what that's called. They bent over, they spread their cheeks and said, Bubba. That's what they did. That's what China did, and that's really the only way you can describe what's happened.
Or the two countries have bilateral negotiations. That's the other way you could describe it. That you can say that, or two countries had bilateral negotiations. I don't know.
Yeah, 3 days ago they said some shit like this. Where it said we're gonna outlast them.
Further into.
Are you reading the details of the deal right now, Prime? Are you looking at the deal?
No, because there is no deal. I'm still I'm waiting for that. there's no trade deal.
Well, is it a deal? Did they come to some kind of agreement about trade?
No, there's no trade.
There was no agreement to lower tariffs.
There's nothing in there. There's nothing in there that like talks about the. Oh, I'm just not going to.
Was there any agreement to lower tariffs?
One second. Hold on a second. Hold on. Look at something.
It seems to be a deal to have a deal. How does that even make sense? How do you have a deal to have a deal? Sorry, I read a chat thing.
It's an agreement to talk more, right? And countries do that. They have they agree that we
Is it like a pause on the beef? Like you just pause the beef for a bit?
It's not really a pause. So like what we know, right? Here's the details that we know, right? Is that they lowered the tariffs, right? So the U.S. lowered the tariffs by 130%, and China lowered their tariffs by 115%. Trump says we will reevaluate once again in 90 days. So another 3 months, right? So from Liberation Day, right, which is April 2nd, he said these tariffs they put on the entire world, right? That was going to last for 90 days. He at that point, I believe the tariffs for China were 84%, if I'm remembering correctly. I might not be, but I believe that's 84%. And then from there,
never deal down. There's two sources right there.
Right. So hold on 1 second. So they was at 84%. I think China was the next one to respond there, by raising tariffs, but maybe that came a little later. Anyway, Trump bumped it up to like I think it was 125 or 145 or something like that. I think it was 145. No, something. There was another one between there. There's multiple. There's been multiple levels where they bump it up, and then China was like, okay, we're not going to bump our tariffs anymore. They stopped at 125, and like, well, there's like literally no point, right? The numbers are just going to go up, but like at this level, like it's practically embargo, right? Where no trade is going to go across. So we're not even going to bother raising our numbers, right? And they said we will not talk to the United States until we are being treated as an equal partner. And then now apparently there was some conversations back and forth, and then they end up in Geneva, which happened this weekend, I believe. And there was talks, and now we're here. Now we're at. So I'll take a look at.
So I have posted a link to one overall news agency one talking about the video. Then I posted an article with the direct video released from China's ministry, whatever ministry they're calling it, called "Never Kneel Down." It's a direct response to the tariffs, saying we'll never do it. Now I don't know about you, but if I posted a fiery rhetoric video called "Never Kneel Down," and then CNN today, five hours ago, is posting an article titled, and I quote, "How Trump managed to get as much needed China trade victory," and then in there it goes into the new realities, dramatically higher tariffs being implemented on China going forward, as well as some other things. It looks like we call that a W, Papa. I'm sorry, you're just wrong.
Hold on, how? Sorry, well, I have to because I haven't seen this, so I'll have to take a look.
It's all right to be wrong sometimes. And this time,
does it have a transcript? I don't want to play it. Does it have?
I mean, you can watch the second one has the quick little.
Does it? Is it subtitled?
Yeah, if you look at the one Global Times, it's got "Never Kneel Down." Is their
Global Times?
video.
Okay. I think it's subtitled. Okay.
Oh yeah. Chat. This is the bell. Opens.
Prime in shambles right now.
No, I'm still waiting for. Maybe I'm looking for it, but it's 2 minutes long. They're saying appeals are always arrogant. The US will keep flopping and playing hardball. But China will stand firm, no matter how hard the wind blows, no matter how clouds rage. I'm like, I'll read it out for you. The darker the night, the brighter the stars shine. Oh my God, seriously, guys? Somehow, someone has to step forward, twitching hand to shatter the fog. Oh, man, this is. When every nation stands tall, wow, this is over the top. The world will break through the walls of hegemony. For China, for the world, we must rise and fight on. Okay, so I'm still. Where was it?
I mean, you don't
was
that
it?
one. Here's the Wall Street Journal saying it. I mean, like they're all saying the same thing.
I'm still waiting for the
I think
for what I asked for. What do you think what do you think I asked for? Before we continue, what do you think I asked for?
Well, what you asked for was this, and I quote, "This is here the thing. I want proof that they said they're not going to back down from negotiations."
No. I didn't say that. I didn't say that. I didn't say that. Try again. I didn't say that. Hold on.
You just said. And
no, I'll tell you exactly what I said.
Literally, the propaganda ministry, or whatever it is, released this video and I quote, in direct response to his tariffs. They're never going to kneel down. They're never going to back down. And you're sitting there talking about, well, they want to come to equal.
No, hold on.
Yeah,
that's not what I asked for.
It's a loss.
Oh my God,
I'm
dude,
sorry.
stop it. Shut up for a second. That's not what I asked for, right? And I didn't say they hadn't released any fiery rhetoric. I'm saying what I said is that they demanded to be treated as equal partners. They would never. They said before they would talk. What are you talking about?
Yeah, never kneel down sounds like we'll talk.
Never kneel down doesn't mean not talk. Never kneel down. Is that does not what that means? Hold on. We're in the video. So you gave this video. Where does it say that we will never reach any sort of deal with
never
with
back down,
Washington?
never kneel down.
Ooh,
That's
W
just
press, Gibbs. W
oh yeah.
press.
Yeah, I mean, whenever
Uh,
you read it in conjunction with the statement released by the ministry, it's pretty
Hold on,
clear what it
stop.
means.
I'm gonna get you a source. One second.
I mean, I post about 6 sources so far.
Ooh, he's
So.
getting a
Yeah, hold
source
on, but I
too,
don't.
Gibbs.
Yeah, you gave me 6
Gibbs is the
sources that
most
didn't
sourced guy
actually give
on
me what I
Twitch.
wanted,
I
right?
have to
So
provide
it doesn't
15
matter.
sources
So like
to prove
every
one
time
thing.
you respond, you keep responding with things that don't address the things that I'm
No,
talking
they
about.
absolutely
So that's
address it.
fine.
You
You
just
can
keep
keep
moving the
post
goalposts.
another
It's
20
okay.
sources,
I'm
right?
gonna need an
Post about
essay for both of you
balloon
with at
animals.
least 10 sightings.
I mean, what's funny is, like I said, first there was no deal. Now there's China and them saying there's a deal. Now he's saying they were agreeing to talk. Then I provide them saying we'll never kneel down. It's just like one after another. Where's the goalpost movie gonna stop? Like, what's next? The reason why I keep providing new things is because I keep having the goalpost moved, and I have to meet that new standard. And since I'm telling the factual standard, it's pretty easy to meet those new standards every time. Mm-hmm.
I've never seen Prime this passionate.
Let me just go ahead and.
Shut up, Gibbs. You're not the next freaking Messiah. Shut up.
You know, it might be. Who knows?
How do you feel about all of this? I don't know. Grid, is that what I should call you? You haven't talked much. Oh, you have 2 people in the waiting room. What are they doing?
Oh yeah, there's people in the waiting room.
Why wouldn't I want to hear Grid, Testy?
What do you think of that? I think it's very accurate to the current situation.
Having like severe mic issues. I'm getting like all kind. My audio's looping for some reason, so I'm trying to figure that out.
I'm looking, by the way. Trump said he's not going to use the plane after he's out of office. Oh, nice, nice hat.
You like that? It's just, I can't the first Hamas win, now that China win, literally he could cure cancer. They'd be like, this guy's terrible. He could make world peace. They'd be like, what about the arms manufacturers? I would say that.
I do think it's kind of interesting how I think I've seen the first criticism from left-leaning people about lowering Medicaid, medication costs, after Trump said that he wanted to do it.
Well,
Never
now
seen them talk about that before.
Now they understand trickle-down economics. They're like, what about the R&D?
Yeah, they're making very solid arguments about R&D, Gibbs. I don't know.
It's very crazy how suddenly we all understand. Yeah, it's just okay, y'all told us this wouldn't happen whenever we're gonna enter marketplace insurance, but when Trump does it for prescriptions, suddenly now when the same logic's applied, oh,
By the way, your hat's not cool. It's not the black Elon Musk one.
that one is really hard to get. Apparently, I've
Yeah,
been trying to order it for a while.
You don't have it, so you're not cool.
Well, you don't have any hat, so
I don't need a hat.
yeah, you should.
My hair is red. I don't need a hat.
You gotta cover up that bald spot. You know what I'm saying?
I don't have a bald spot like you do. That's why you wear a hat.
Listen, I have luscious hair.
Oh, see all those bald spots? I see them. They're everywhere. Really bald. Really bald. Really bald over there.
You look like Jesus, bro. I don't know what you're talking about.
I bet you're not even buoyant at all. I bet you just sink.
Yeah, that would mean I was all muscle. So yeah, sure.
If that helps you cope. You okay, Prime?
Apparently, he's got his headphones off. Apparently, Reagan Ronald Reagan has a plane in his presidential library. Trump wouldn't even be the first one to do it.
Well, Reagan was also a dementia patient as well, so.
Okay.
You know, he probably forgot that he left the plane there. You know,
That's not what happened at all.
I think that's exactly what happened, bro. The lizard people and him.
The lizard people got him. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. They actually replaced him. I think we broke Prime. He's not even pulling the other people in.
Honestly, like, what is he doing? He's deep in research. He really wants to know if he's right or not.
The chat is like he's uploading Chat GPT.
He's like arguing with Chat GPT right now. Everything you say, he's just been feeding into Chat GPT.
I'm gonna declare victory. If it takes this long to find more sources than
why'd you have to break him before we got to the topic I actually researched?
Listen, I just provided like 8 sources because, you know, what I said is backed in reality. I didn't have to like Chat GPT, you know?
He's really trying to come back at you with something. Look at him.
Look at bro.
He's really in a kitchen.
That's when you hit him with the TLDR.
Look out, Gibbs. He's cooking up something for you.
I'm just saying, if it takes this long to prove me wrong after I've dropped like 8 sources, I don't know. I'd be like, trying to convince you apples are red and green. You know what I'm saying?
I need to see how his is looking.
He's got a sick TYT video about to drop. Just you watch.
It's gonna be like
he doesn't have anything else on stream. All right, Gibbs. Talk about something else.
It's crazy now. That's a real thing. Like I go on a show. This is like it's like every show. I'll make a claim, and they'll be like, "Crazy, you're insane." And then I'll provide a source. They're like, "That's not good enough." I'll provide another one. That's not good enough. You'll provide like 3 or 4. They're like, "That's not enough." And I'm like, "Why y'all are saying this is the insane take?" Like last week they said it was the insane take, and I'm like, "The governor of Texas has the same take as I do." Are you like unless you're just saying we're all insane?
So wait, you probably do have an insane take, okay? If the governor,
yeah, listen. Yeah. Abbott is an American hero. First of all, like the man has overcome being hit by a tree to become the governor of the greatest state in the union, the nation state of Texas.
Listen, I mean, I agree with you that like he obviously had like a personal, I guess, challenge to overcome getting hit by that tree.
What a goat!
It's impressive. I'm not sure I could do it, but I wasn't a big fan of the whole. You don't have the correct license argument. Not a big fan of that.
Also, there's like 10 people in the waiting room.
Yeah, hi, Prime. Welcome back.
Hey, thanks for that. All right. So I've got like 3 sources here. All right.
Good. That beats 9 or 8 or however many I've dropped.
Yeah, when they're useless, then it makes no difference to me. But anyway, so back to this. U.S. and China rift widens amid insults and mind games. This is from the India Times. I'll put all this in the
the India Times.
Yeah, there's a bunch of these. What? Okay, and I have one from Newsmax in a second, but I'll put that in a second. Now you care. Okay, anyway, doesn't matter. One second. U.S. President Donald Trump says he is waiting for a call from Beijing to resolve trade issues, but China demanding, quote unquote, equality, respect, and mutual benefit before any talks, pledged to, quote unquote, fight to the end as the world's 2 biggest economies clash and effectively decoupled on Tuesday. This is April 8th. All right. Then going to the 9-dash line, U.S.-China trade tariffs, the clash of national grievances. On April 10th, a Chinese Communist Party foreign ministry spokesperson declared that China would not sit idly by while the quote-unquote legitimate rights and interests of the Chinese people are denied. In response to President Trump's comment that China wants a deal but does not know how to go about it, the spokesperson responded, if the U.S. truly wants to talk, it should let people see that they are ready to treat others with equality, respect, and mutual benefit. Interesting. And then there is this one is from Newsmax. The title: China emphasizes equality, respect, and U.S. trade talks. As this is from what are you saying for? I don't understand why you keep doing that.
This is all just biased partisan spin.
Because
It's pretty clear that's what this is. I mean, it took
Hold on,
you
hold on.
it took you
What did
30
you
minutes to find 3 sources. When I literally
wait?
just typed Trump China deal, and it's like Trump
Yeah,
win,
and you
Trump
didn't
win,
find the thing that was
Trump
asked for.
win.
So again,
And
you
then,
keep
then you
giving me
said they
things
didn't
that had
say
nothing to do.
something,
Wait one
and
second,
then
hold on,
10
shut
seconds
up,
later,
shut up for a
never
second. Wait,
back down, never
hold
kneel
on,
down.
hold on. I let you talk for a while there, all right? I put my headphones down because I had to actually, but because to get
Because you have to
actual
hunt it down.
research, to
The
do
actual
actual
research. The
research,
Indian
you
Times. Got it.
shut up. To do actual research, you actually need time to do this, right? I was prepared to talk about this at this moment. I would have had my sources ready if I thought we were going to talk about this, but I didn't. So I have to find my sources, ones that are actually relevant. If I wanted to just bring articles that talked about the trade deals and had nothing to do with responding to what you're saying, well, then I could have just typed that in as well. But I'm not an idiot, not like you, and so it takes me time to do that.
I'm
So
an
this
idiot
comes
because I
from
proved everything I
this
said,
comes
and you
from
posted
this is
the
April
Indian
this is
Times, bro. Like,
April
come on.
23rd. Where once again if okay
When was this from?
if a negotiate this is Newsmax. If a
When?
negotiated solution is shut up. If a negotiated solution is truly what the U.S. wants, it should stop threatening and blackmailing China and seek dialogue based on equality, respect, and mutual benefit. He continued. To keep
But
asking
you
for a
realize
deal.
the flaw in this?
Shut up. To keep
Okay.
asking for a deal while exerting extreme pressure is not the right way to deal
Mm.
with China and simply will not work. There you
Ah.
go. So
Will
everything that I've
not
said.
work. Really. So
So
this is what you just said.
I'm gonna
Read what
send
you just
you.
said. Read that sentence again. Right. You read
I'll read
this
it.
is
To keep
read
asking for a deal while exerting
the blackmail.
pressure is not the right way to
No.
deal with China and simply
Oh.
will not work. And
Oh, so
so,
hold on. At the
and once
beginning
it,
of that, though, at the beginning of the sentence you read, this is the
okay,
thing: is when they classified it as blackmail, extortion, and now they pressure, and then they go, "Oh, well, we want to be treated with respect." So here's the deal: this is what you're admitting. They're saying we're not going to do this as long as those things go on. Trump keeps those things up. Suddenly, there's a deal. So what exactly did Trump do between now and then that made them suddenly back down? Oh, the answer is nothing. So they engaged into negotiations with him, even though he didn't back down on those things until just now after coming to your agreement. Even in your own source, they're admitting that they're a bitch. That's hilarious. Thank
no,
you for proving
they
my point.
didn't.
You just proved my point. If they were gonna not
How,
talk to him, why'd they talk to
sorry,
him in Geneva then?
I see it.
Why? Why'd they
Okay,
talk to him in
so hold on.
Geneva?
This is from Bloomberg. Xi
Uh-huh.
Defiance. Hold on, this is from Bloomberg. Xi Defiance pays off as Trump meets most China trade demands. Xi Jinping, a decision to stand his ground against Donald Trump, could hardly have gone any better for the Chinese leader. After 2 days of high-stakes talks in
Mm.
Switzerland, trade
Oh, now you're
negotiations
debating what I said at
from
the
the
beginning.
world's biggest economies announced Monday a massive de-escalation in tariffs. And it goes on to carefully coordinated deal. The dramatic
Really
reduction.
coordinated deal. Oh, so there is
No,
a
no, 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 no,
carefully
no, no. It
coordinated deal.
wasn't. No, no. It said coordinated joint statements. Shut up. That's not what it said. Oh my God, you're such an idiot.
All
And then
right.
back to it.
I mean, you can keep
The
saying that, but everything keeps proving me right so far.
the dramatic reduction
I
exceeded
mean, if
China's.
I'm right and you're wrong, and you're calling me an idiot, that makes me the
Shut
idiot.
up. The dramatic reduction exceeded expectations in China and sent the dollar and stocks soaring, providing some much
Sorry.
needed market relief for Trump, who is facing pressure as inflation looks set to speed up at home. Chinese equities also surged. Now the deal ended up meeting nearly all of Beijing's core demands. The elevated reciprocal tariff on for China, which Trump set at 34% on April 2nd, has been suspended, leaving America's top rival with the same 10% that applies to the UK,
So
a
now
longtime
once
ally.
again, you're back to arguing about what's in the
The
deal, which, like
U.S.
I said, hold on,
met
hold on. I want you to
Beijing.
examine your own
Hold
argument. Here's your own
on.
argument. You said they
Hold on.
were only wanted to be treated with
So wait a
trade
minute.
respect. All
They
right,
did.
do you admit
They
before
didn't.
this deal was done or not done or whatever you call it, before yesterday, there was no backing down on tariffs Trump on China, correct?
There
China
was
had
no
before yesterday, all the tariffs were in place, correct?
from the
For
reciprocal.
China. No,
The
yeah, all the
hold on, so I just want to be clear what you're asking me. You're asking me about the tariffs that China put in place
No,
against
I'm
the
asking
United
about the
States.
ones
Is that what you're
tariff put in
asking?
place. No, the ones Trump put in place first against
Oh,
China.
okay.
Those
Okay.
were all in place up until yesterday,
They
correct?
were all up in. Oh, yeah.
Okay, so if those are in place up until yesterday, and
Okay.
they said, and I quote, this is from you, until they stop exerting pressure, which because those quotes were still there, guess what they did? If they didn't ever end until yesterday, that means Trump and them didn't stop putting pressure, and they still came to talk and agreed to a deal.
They literally did. Hold on. No, because you're
right?
Oh my God. Oh my God. You're so
unless you're retarded.
This is what frustrates me is that when you get
A plus
so
B equals C, bro.
stupid, right? When you like
this is
act
stupid.
like this,
Okay.
and it's like
I mean,
it's
I'm not going to act like
talking.
anything.
It's
You're like over
talking to
here
the most
looking for
belligerent
something
child.
to
Wait a
That's
minute.
not a belligerent
So what
child.
happened?
You're
Hold
just
on. Hold
wrong,
on.
and you're
What did I
bad.
say from the start? What did I say from the start? At least, sorry.
It's
the start
okay.
of
You
this.
got embarrassed on
Sorry.
this one.
So shut up. Don't make me mute you. Shut up, please.
I'm
Shut
just
up.
saying the truth.
Shut up. What did I say from the start from this section of the conversation? That the Chinese demanded to be treated on equal footing, right? And they wouldn't do any negotiation otherwise. And then they begin talks, right? And what happens? Both bilaterally lower the tariffs, right? They do a bilateral, like equal partners. Like equal partners, they lower it. They don't do a unilateral rollback of the tariffs, right? That would have been surrender. Like I said at the very fucking start of this, that would have been surrender. That didn't happen. They didn't provide, as far as I can. Again, I'm reading through all these articles.
Well, let's
But
just poll the other people here. Let's watch this. Let me
No,
propose the
hold on.
scenario.
We don't.
Hold on.
No,
hold on.
no. I won't. Hold on. Shut up. Hold on. Shut up. There's no need to. I'm not going to bring in other people because I'm not going to make this a whole thing. This is not going to be a whole
it's because you're
conversation.
wrong and you're afraid to.
Hold on. Shut up. Hold on. Because I had other things to talk. No, because I had other things to talk about. Hold on. Shut up.
Hold on. I mean, just look.
I'm going to mute you.
Don't mute. I mean, mute me if you're afraid. It's fine.
I will mute you. I will mute you.
I'm going to put something out here.
Yeah.
Let Fabian do.
Thank you. Great. So, I'm not going to make this the whole conversation, right? But what I started off with is that the deal that's been promised has not shown up. This thing is just a lowering of the tariffs, right? Lowering of the tariffs. We have none of the things that Trump asked for have been asked. In fact, everything like this article is talking about, everything the Chinese wanted happened. See, the Chinese didn't have any demands for the U.S. initially. All they wanted was the tariffs to go down, and they did. They exceeded that. If I'm trying to remember, I think on a Liberation Day that it was at 84% the initial tariffs. I think so. I have to pull up a source for that, but I think that's where it started off with, and now it's lower than that. It's lower than that. So the Trump administration backs down on almost all of the tariffs that's applied to apply to China, right? And China, which wasn't tariffing us, at least not much, right? Maybe 2 or 3% something previously, but whatever it wasn't 10%. Now they have lowered it down to 10%. And so this is a surrender. This is a complete surrender. China says, as I've demonstrated through multiple articles, China says, hey, we need to be do this equal footing. What happens? We have bilateral negotiations where China and the U.S. both in a joint statement, right, and a coordinated joint statement decide to lower that together. So your thesis at the start of this is that, China's a bunch of punk bitches. They immediately collapsed. I tell you no. I give you evidence as to why that's not the case. Obviously, that's not the case, right? They didn't unilaterally surrender. Not at all. Trump had to come to them and treat them equally. That's what happened.
Wait. Real quick. During Biden,
go
ahead. Chinese tariffs were at 21.2%.
Okay. Well, I didn't know. No, that's fine. I wasn't aware of that. Fair enough. So then it lowered there. So if I got that wrong,
so Trump cut Chinese tariffs on us by half. That's a win.
Yeah, hold on. But those were, if I'm remembering correctly, that those tariffs were in response to Trump's initial tariffs previously. I have to see. I got to do more research on this. But remember, so in the first Trump administration, there was a trade war, and there was the part one of this, right? He puts tariffs on China My understanding is that, and correct me on this, right? But my understanding is that Biden continues those tariffs afterwards, and then those China put tariffs on us in a response to that. And so, if those
Maybe.
tariffs are going down, if that's the case, and I could be wrong, I might be wrong, but this is my recollection. This is my recollection. So I'm not making a firm stance on this, but if it's those tariffs that are going down, then this is a reset from the first Trump administration. If that's the case. If that's the case, I'm not exactly
And
sure.
it may
Again,
be.
I actually got to
It may
do
be.
research. Yeah, it might be. I don't, but again, I'm not going to take a firm stance on that.
But I'll say
Let me
this
bring in
though.
the other
But
thing.
here's the thing though.
Yes,
You're
sure.
it could be, but our tariffs. So it looks like Chinese and U.S. tariffs were more or less in line at around 20% for almost all of
If the Saints are
Biden's.
performing,
Almost
if
all.
the Saints are
You're in the thing. Sorry, go ahead.
all right.
Almost
Lactoid.
all of Biden's presidency. So what that means is that they got, if this is true,
If it's true, yeah.
Trump got China's tariffs basically lower than during Biden, and he still has 10% higher tariffs in China than during Biden. I'll link you what I'm looking
Tariffs
at.
from us? Sure.
Yeah, so I'm looking right here. So
But
like U.S. tariffs on Chinese exports and Chinese tariffs on U.S. exports are roughly the same. At like the difference is like 21.8% compared to 19.3%, 21.2% compared to 19.3%, and then that's like basically for all of Biden's presidency. And then we have the trade war in which shit shoots up to like into the hundreds, right? But if it's true that China dropped theirs down to 10% and we dropped ours down to 30%, our tariffs on China are still above what they were during Biden's presidency, and Chinese tariffs on our goods are below what they were during Biden's presidency, which would mean that assuming that tariffs are basically Trump has more tariffs on China than before, and China has less tariffs on us than before.
But I hear what you're saying, and that might be true, but and again, because I don't know the timeline from the first Trump
I linked the
administration,
timeline.
right?
It's got the full timeline.
Yeah. Sure. Well, yeah, but this covered the first Trump administration.
It goes all the way back to January 2018, and that was when like the initial kind of trade war began. And you're right, it
Okay,
was lower for both of them. It was
okay.
China had it on 8% on us, and we had it at like
Mhm.
3.1% on them. And then like we
Okay.
ramped it up throughout 2019, and then basically by 2020 it was like around 20% for both of us, and that stayed steady all the way through Biden's presidency. And then it shot up at the very obviously when Trump took over. But if this is true, where we're down to 30 on them now and they're down to 10% on us, this is still like assuming the tariffs are favorable, which I'm not assuming, but if you follow Trump's logic, it is. This is a more favorable tariff situation than during Biden's presidency.
Yeah, but my problem here is that the reason, and from what I'm hearing from you, again, I haven't looked at this article. I'm just trying to remember how this China retaliates with tariffs, 232 tariffs. I don't know what that means here. So like China puts on retaliatory tariffs on the United States on April 2nd, 2018. That's interesting. Exactly. April 2nd. All right. But anyway, they put in tariffs, retaliatory tariffs after Trump starts the tariff war. So you're saying that like, well, there's a win because during the Biden administration, they were at this certain level, right? And now they're lower than that level. But
Yes.
if it is the case that China was at that level, let's say it was 20%, right? Again, I have to read through this. But let's say it was at 20%, and it previously was at 8%, right? Let's say that was the case. The reason why it was at 20% was because of the last trade war, though.
Yeah,
This
yeah,
is
but,
a
but let's right. But let's take
but
it
it's
back
a
to the first.
recorrection.
No, well, hold on, but
Sure.
not really, right? Let's take it back to the first Trump
Sure,
presidency.
go ahead.
So
Sure.
again, let's just roll with the assumption that tariffs are like when you tariff other countries, that's good, and when they tariff you, it's bad. Which again, I don't actually believe, but
That's
let's just
not.
roll with that
I don't
assumption.
agree with that either. But sure. Yeah.
During the first Trump administration, China had a
Mhm.
tariff on us of like 8%, and now it's 10%.
Okay.
So really not all that distant, right? But we had a tariff on them of 3%. Now it's 30. So overall, their tariffs on us have
But
shifted up 2%. Our tariffs on them have shifted up 27%.
But that doesn't mean. Sorry, that doesn't mean anything. Like that doesn't. Like in any case, we get a lot, like that hurts us more, right? Because we, the American people, are the ones who pay that tariff. So you're saying the U.S. is like the people who get hurt from that are the American taxpayers, right? Or not even American tax, any consumer within America, right? Whether they're a citizen or not, they're the ones who pay those tax. Well, they pay it after the through the distributor. The distributor passes on the price to the American consumer. That's how that works. Okay. And so you're saying, well, yes, we've lowered our tariffs to 30%, right? And they're still higher, but China's lowered it down to 10%. But all of this is a reset. This is part 2 of the first tariff war that Trump started in the first place. U.S. And the thing that you give me,
but their tariffs are not more.
7th,
Yeah, but their tariffs were 8%. Now
that
they're
doesn't
10.
matter. That doesn't matter though. That doesn't matter for my argument. My argument is that this is a reset from the first. This is an ongoing fight, right?
Well, it's not a reset. It's a reset, but they're roughly where they were, and we are 27% higher.
Sorry, maybe I don't want to use the word reset. Recalibration, if you prefer that. Not reset as to like this isn't what it was at February 6, 2018, right? This is still an ongoing fight from February 7th, 2018. That's when it first started, right? With the solar panels and the washing machine.
And at that time they were at 8% on us, and now they're at 10. Okay,
but that's not.
Just as long as we're clear.
I'm saying it's not a win because they started the fight. The U.S. started this fight.
Yeah. We started the fight, and they're only up 2% on us. And now we were charging them 3%. Now we're charging them 30%.
But that hurts us more because they don't get the whole thing about this was a trade imbalance, right? The whole reason he's talking about this is there's a trade imbalance that China buys a lot less from us than we do of them. So the people that get hurt, right? Because as you know, tariffs tend to be bad, right? Mostly they're not done strategically. The people who got hurt from that are the Americans, right? You're saying that, well, China still has like tariffs at this percentage. It doesn't matter. They're not getting many goods from us. So from the Chinese perspective, right? That's why there's no point for the Chinese. Another reason why there's no point for the Chinese to raise tariffs against us previously before this weekend, raise it to like 200% to fight back and forth. Because none of this matters. They don't get as much. They get very little goods the other way around. That we get a ton of goods from them, so the pain comes to us. So it doesn't matter if it's like 2% more than it was previously, right, or whatever. These things aren't apple to apple. If you're just looking at the numbers, that's not like that doesn't.
Well, but also that those extra percentages, that 30% or whatever, that's a specific thing. Like it's not part of that negotiation. It's a separate negotiation. It's the part that had to do with fentanyl. So we have a specific tariff on them over fentanyl that accounts for the 30%. So or for the 20 of the 30%. So it's really 10 and 10 are equal, except that they added another 20 for the fentanyl stuff, and that's a separate negotiation. That's why it's happened that way. But I just want to say, like in regards to Prime's point about whether this is like a deal or not, I think the thing to look at are the list of demands that Trump said that he was making, that he wouldn't back down unless these things were met. Okay, and there's a whole list. One of them is a reduction of the trade deficit. The other one was end of forced technology transfers. The other one was IP protections, the opening of the Chinese market. He wants them to end state subsidies for any industry. He wants them to stop currency manipulation, and he wants them to meet the $200 billion target that they agreed to in January of 2020. So he wants those 7 things. Now, how many of those 7 things were achieved in this deal?
Probably not a lot, other than addressing the trade deficit.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, we don't know, right?
Because they haven't really addressed the trade deficit. Could you explain that?
Because you have higher tariffs on them than they have on us.
No, this doesn't. Then that was already the case.
We raise more. No.
That was already the case.
Wait. Sorry. If we assume tariffs, okay, I'm gonna argue. I'm gonna bank on the good faith of the audience. Okay. When we have 30% tariffs and they have 10% tariffs, when like their goods come in, we're charging like more on that than when our goods go to them. We charge a fuck ton. Yeah, sure. You can say we're charging the American people, okay? But the argument for tariffs is that if we charge a bunch of money on the goods coming in, This raises money that we can then spend for like public services or whatever, just the basic taxation argument. And this compels industry to want to move to the US to sell to the US market as opposed to staying in China. And so if the tariffs were at if both the US and China's tariffs were roughly at 20% beforehand, and now there's been a realignment where China's at 10% on us and we're at 30% on them, if tariffs work, Trump negotiated a pretty good tariff deal in that we have more on them than they have on us, as opposed to the entire Biden presidency.
But
and even during Trump's first presidency.
But it doesn't make sense. Hold on. But they get less. If that would make sense. That would be true if there wasn't a trade imbalance to begin with. If we were like, because you're looking at these numbers, 10% is lower than 30%, right? But China gets far less of their imports from us than we do from them. So, like, we are the tariffs hurt American consumers, and the tariffs the Chinese impose.
I think that's oversimplifying it, Prime. I think you're oversimplifying it.
You just unmuted yourself on StreamYard, and that caused an issue. Hold on, I just muted you on StreamYard. So, and I'll hear what you have to say for a second. Let me just finish this sentence, then I'll go to you, Grid. Right? So, yeah. Like, we aren't, it's not an equal trade. There's a massive trade imbalance, which is one of the reasons why Trump said he wanted to do this in the first place, because they get so much less from us. The hurt to Chinese citizens, right, and the pressure on Chinese industries is far less. Even so, you can't compare 10 to 30% there. It just doesn't work out in the same way.
Well, but hold on, but it'd be more favorable than 2020. Assuming that tariffs are favorable if you put them on products coming in terms of getting. Wait. In terms of getting industry to move to the U.S., right? Because the whole theory is like, if we raise tariffs on a country, then more of that industry will want to come to the U.S. And assuming that theory holds, then Trump is at an advantage having a 30% tariff on China, as opposed to China having only a 10% now when they had a 20%.
But he's not. Hold on, he's not. Considering what Ico said, right? He bought in the fentanyl. That 20% is not. So there's a 10% flat import rate.
It's 30% total. The 20% might be.
Oh my God, I understand that. Obvious. I know. Hold on, listen. There's. I trust me. I've been following this. So there's 10% flat for the world, right? And then an additional 20%, that's over the fentanyl negotiations, right? And they started doing some sort of talks, according to Scott Bessent, right? In Geneva over that. That's not for the moving of industry, though. The reason why I'm bringing this up, think about this. If China makes a deal about handling the flow of fentanyl, right? Or the fentanyl precursors to the US, then that goes away. Then we're at 10%.
Yeah, but that's enough of a political win anyway. He doesn't care. If he gets China to stop like all the fentanyl shipping, like he's going to say, we're both at 10% now. That's fair.
That's not. Hold on, my God. That's not what I'm addressing. That is a win. That is a win. I agree. But that's not what I'm talking about, right?
But no, but he's saying I'm saying you could argue it's a win-win either way, right? It's a win if they stop the fentanyl and then it's only 10%. Or if they refuse to stop the fentanyl, then we're at 30%. We get more of their industry.
We don't. But
well,
we don't.
Again,
Sorry,
assuming tariffs work,
no,
getting more
stop.
of their industry.
Stop assuming. Stop doing that, because I know you don't believe this in the first place, right? So let's pull back. That's not actually the case.
Well, he's really like Trump is doing a good job at getting what he wants done. I just don't agree with what he wants to get done.
He
hasn't.
That's the problem. But he hasn't. But you keep saying, what the list Ico gave? How much of that was filled?
So have you read Art of the Deal, Prime?
No, sorry, I'm ignoring that. Sorry, no.
Wait, no, seriously. I mean this.
No.
Have you read it? Have you read it? Gibbs has a copy. Look at Gibbs' camera.
I don't care. Hold on. I don't care. Hold on. I'm not saying there won't be a future deal, because I never said that. Correct?
So wait. The Art of Deal. What the Art of Deal?
I'm addressing.
It's not a lot. It's not a lot of the specific points, okay? But what the Art of
because it has nothing to do with my argument.
No, it
has nothing to do with my argument.
You asked me a question. You asked me a question. You said how many points did I go list? Well, what? I just answered it. I said not a lot. I said one in particular.
So not a lot or none.
No,
or not?
One in particular by raising.
Hasn't addressed. It hasn't addressed
Yes,
that one.
yes.
No, it hasn't.
If both parties have a 20% tariff on each other, and then you put a 30% and they drop it down to a 10%, all else equal, you have now.
It's not all else equal.
Whoa,
it's not all else equal.
Well, then you can't blame Trump for that.
Well, of course I can. Of course I can.
You can only blame. No. You can only blame Trump for his policies.
He put the tariffs in the first place. You're like, you can't blame Trump for the fact that, like,
no,
yes,
bro,
like, trade is
you're totally missing the point. You're missing the point. You're missing the point, Prime.
You're missing the point.
No, I'm not. I promise you, I'm not. You said before that China only had like a 4% tariff on us. You were dead wrong about that. There were 20% the entire Biden presidency. Okay, my argument here is that you have to hold Trump responsible for the policies that he's implementing. And the policies are all else equal, all the stuff that Trump can't control.
Not all else equal.
All the stuff that Trump can't control, like global supply chains, et cetera, et cetera. Okay,
you can never control that previously. You can't control the supply
when
chains.
Trump raises tariffs to 30% and China drops theirs down to 10%.
That's not how it works.
That's going to shift some of the trade deficit. That is absolutely going to affect the trade deficit.
Hold on, it's going to. Yes.
Now, I don't think affecting the trade deficit is a problem.
It
or
will.
An issue.
Hold on, we'll shift it by 30%. We'll shift it by 30%.
No, not by 30%. Not by 30%.
No, of course, yeah, because that would be ridiculous.
But it'll shift it some.
No, it'll shift it some. Hold on. Of course, it's going to shift it some. Anything.
So he has reduced the trade deficit.
No, hold on. You're saying.
But the trade deficit numbers came out last week, and they went up, not down.
No, they went down. I've got it up right here.
Well, you're saying it's been addressed now, right? Now it is that there was some shift at all within the negotiation. Well, then he didn't have to meet them in Switzerland, right? Because that shift already happened, correct? When you put it at 145% tariffs, then they already had that shift, correct?
At 145, yeah. Yes. Hold on. At 100, when you have it like 145, when you have a massive tariff like that, of course you're going to that's like alone is going to that alone is going to cause like a major shift in the trade deficit.
Exactly.
But China had retaliatory tariffs, and they dropped theirs at a greater percentage than we dropped ours.
But it doesn't matter because they don't import as much. You keep saying that, but it literally doesn't matter.
But
like Chinese,
you keep saying that, but you're missing the point that the things that they import from us, they need more than the things we import from them.
That just says Mike, and Corey's here too, by the way.
Yeah, the Chinese families do not, on the consumer side, simply do not use as much American goods as American families do of Chinese goods. Our houses are filled with Chinese goods, all of us, every single one of us here, right? You can reach out probably within arm's reach and find a good made in China right now.
This is irrelevant to my argument.
Right behind you.
The same is not the case.
This is irrelevant to my argument.
Well, then,
listen. The U.S. we could probably put a 50% tariff, and they could drop their tariff down to 0%, and there would probably still be a trade deficit in favor of China because you're right. They trade way more than we do. What I'm saying, did Trump say we're going to completely reverse the trade deficit with China so that we have a trade surplus with China? Was that like the specific goal, or was it reduce the trade deficit?
Yeah, here's the thing. There was no specific goal, right? So
it was to reduce the trade deficit. That was one of his goals.
And he already did that. But
the tariff did it more. I don't know what you like. He's saying he's going to address this. He's going to do more for it.
No, hold on. It didn't.
But
145%.
But it must. A tariff must by the laws of economics.
I know, because this is what I'm saying. You actually aren't following me. Because at 145%, if the goal is simply to address tariff trade imbalances, that happened from the 145%. Already done.
No, because they had retaliatory ones that were like higher or around the same. Or
they weren't higher. They were never higher.
Hold on. But they were around. They were closer to the same amount than they are now as a percentage.
125%.
Yes. 120. Hold on. Do you agree? Do you agree? Hold on. Prime.
No.
Do you agree that the proportion of 125 to 145 is smaller than the proportion of 10 to 30? One is a third as opposed to the other one, which is
friend. You're smarter than this, which is why it's driving me up the wall, right? You know that at 100%. Wait, hold on. Lactoid. Yes or no? At 100% a tariff, right? Goods. You're a business, right? And you have to buy your goods at 100% tariff. It doubles the price.
Yeah, this is the argument against tariffs, but I'm not making that argument right now.
No. But listen. it doubles the price.
Yeah.
If you can't operate at that, that means there's no trade coming. You can't trade at all, right?
Yes, that lowers your trade deficit.
At some point, when the numbers go so far up, that means it stops. So it doesn't matter if let's say that number is 100%. Just pretend it's not. It's much lower than that. But let's say at 100%, then there's no trade period going across, right? So then it doesn't matter if it's 145%, and then China's 125%, and then there's a bounce in those numbers because of that. If at 100%, we just said it there. If at 100% there is no trade going back and forth, then those numbers are imaginary. That's why I'm rejecting that. You can understand that.
Wait, hold on. So your argument is that if there's zero trade between a country, there is no trade surplus or deficit because there's no trade.
No, that's not. No, I didn't argue that. Hold on, listen.
Okay.
At some point, it doesn't matter how much the numbers are. So you could say, like, well, Trump, he raised up the tariffs to 3,000%, and then China raised it up to 1,000%. But then they lowered it today to 30 and 10, and so China, as a proportion, they lowered it much more, and true. So I guess they win. But like, it doesn't matter because at 3,000%, at 2,000%, at 1,000%, there's no trade happening in the first place, so it doesn't matter.
I agree. Yeah, I agree that you can hit a certain threshold in which if there's no trade happening, you wouldn't have a deficit or surplus on either side. It would just be net zero. But like, if we have like 100%, let's say we had like 100, or let's say we had 200% tariffs on China, and China had 0% tariffs on us, our trade surplus there would only be a trade surplus, right? Because we would only be shipping China goods.
I'm not saying they have no effect. Yes, of course, these things have an effect. I'm saying at some point, if they're both raised at that level, then it doesn't matter. So it doesn't matter. So you're saying you're taking credit for like raising for Trump, putting the number at some ridiculous level that like stopped most trade that was happening back
and then brought their tariffs down to lower than it was before, and brought our tariffs down to higher than it was before.
Lower than it was before.
Because under Biden it was at 20, now it's at 10.
It doesn't matter because of my again, I have to read through that article. Maybe I missed it.
They were at 20, now they're at 10. We were at 20, now we're at 30. So we went up, they went down.
By the way, I sent you an article.
Yeah, but does it matter if they're not buying as much from us as if we're buying from them? I think is his point. I don't know if you've contested with that or not, but like if I tariff you like 10% and you tariff me 30%, but like I'm not buying jack shit from you and you're buying everything from me, then the 10% that you have on me means nothing, and the 30% I like have on you means like
right. I understand that, but as president, like, you can tariff. What else are you expected to be able to do to address the trade deficit?
Not that. Hold on. Not that.
Wait, what?
What? Know this
what can the president do?
I will tell you. I will tell you exactly right now what the president can do. The president can put together an industrial plan. A long-term industrial. Sorry. What?
Sorry, a deal.
No, that's not it. No, I'm not talking about a deal. I'm not talking about anything that involves another country yet. You put a long-term industrial plan. You say, hey, we have to up our infrastructure. So what we want to do, and at least a part of this, not all of it, but a part of this, I agree with Trump, right? I want some manufacturing to come back, not all of it. In fact, I actually agree more with what Scott Bessent said today, right? Talking about a strategic decoupling, which is the thing that he should have done in the first place. So to like bring back a level of manufacturing on the things that matter to us: chips, pharmaceuticals, and there's some other.
Sure, this could probably increase domestic industry as well. Sure.
Let's just go for computer chips and pharmaceuticals. To do that, you need an industrial base, right? Infrastructure that can handle that. You're going to have to build factories that's going to take you 4 or 5, maybe a decade, maybe 10, possibly 10 years to build these factories that can do that. Then you have to also, at the same time, you also have to
go through Congress.
Yeah.
Unlike tariffs.
Yeah, you'd have to actually do it the right way. You don't have to like be an idiot like Donald Trump.
If you want to,
no, I'm answering a question. You want to know what they can do?
Yeah. What I'm saying is, what can the president do unilaterally without Congress here?
He's not supposed to do what he's not supposed to unilaterally cause a massive economic shock to his own country. That's what he's not supposed to do. Right? You're saying what unilateral thing? There is not unilaterally. Unilaterally, there's very little that a president can do. A president has a Congress, though. He has a bully pulpit.
I think unilaterally, I think the only way the president can unilaterally affect the trade deficit is going to be through tariffs.
He can put together.
Not that the trade deficit matters, but if we care about that, Trump did I think is doing a pretty good
matter.
job.
I agree. It doesn't matter. None of this fucking matters. This is all an economic shock for no fucking reason. For literally no fucking reason, he hurt the United States. I agree. But you're asking
he got China's tariffs down to 10%.
But you asked me what is he supposed to do? And so as you're building out those plants, you have to actually train your industrial base because we don't have the skilled workers for that. To build chips and to for pharmaceuticals to a certain extent, we don't have the base, so we have to train our workers to accomplish that. You have to build out the electrical system so that it can handle that. You have to make more regulations as to how you don't care about regulations, but like as to how those plants are going to offer. All that's an industrial plan, right? And then after that, at the end of that, when you're ready to take on those industries, when you've set the groundwork, then you start putting tariffs in. You put strategic tariffs, not blanket across the board, because that's a dumb fuck thing to do. That only that only a moron, a blithering idiot would ever think of, right? Instead, on those specific industries, let's say chips and let's say pharmaceuticals, then you start ramping it up. Right? And you ramp it up slowly, not all at once, because you still need those companies to actually move their operations over. So you slowly ramp up tariffs, right? And you make it so the smarter choice for those corporations is to use all the infrastructure that you've provided, right? And through tax subsidies and through direct grants or whatever it is, right? To move their operations gradually over here. That's what you're supposed to do. Question asked and answered.
Hold on.
Why didn't the Democrats do it for the past 30 years?
Well, but hold on. I would argue, Prime, like, wouldn't, under your position, didn't the Democrats do it? Like, didn't CHIPS and the Infrastructure Act pass? And so they did the CHIPS Act. Yeah, so they've set this up now for Trump to come in and hit him with the tariffs.
But Trump repealed a lot of the CHIPS Act.
The infrastructure?
He's refusing to implement it. Yeah.
Well, wait, hasn't he called the CHIPS Act stupid? Didn't he call that stupid? So why is he?
Yeah, he didn't like the CHIPS Act.
Well, sure, okay, he might like maybe he didn't like it, but Prime, what you're saying, you're describing like an economic situation where you set up the infrastructure in such a way, and I believe that you believe Biden did that. To now, like U.S. companies have like an advantage.
I don't believe Biden did that. Hold on, I didn't know. Hold on. Well, what I just said, right? That takes a long term. Biden started it. Biden did start it, right? But it wasn't.
So when does Trump get to put tariffs on?
It has to be continued over multiple presidents, and if a president
after Trump's gone, then we can have tariffs.
Yes. Along.
If the next president brings it back. The CHIPS Act still exists. It wasn't repealed in legislation.
I just have one more question.
Dip into the CHIPS Act and make it work.
A long-term industrial plan requires long-term. So what did I say? I talked about a decade. Even if he's in there for another 8 years, still it's not done.
Let me ask you this.
Biden already set it up. Biden didn't set it up.
Prime, can I ask you a question, Prime? Let's say. Okay, that's the last question. Let's say that Trump does get China. Okay, we're gonna cut back on the fentanyl, and then in response, Trump drops it down to 10%. Now we're at 10%. Both ways, as opposed to 20% both ways. At that point, would you agree that Trump has done a good job on trade? That he cut tariffs in half?
Sorry, I'm typing something. I apologize, friend. Could you repeat that?
Okay, let's say that Trump gets China to concede that they're not going to do fentanyl anymore. Right? They're not going to ship us a bunch of fentanyl, and then in response, Trump drops tariffs down to 20%, and so now it's 10-10. Would you agree now that because tariffs are cut in half, and then from under the Biden administration, now it's 10%, and because tariffs are bad, as you talked about, then this would mean that Trump is actually kind of a genius on trade, right? Tariffs are cut in half.
Oh, no. Why would this make him a genius on trade?
Because he got tariffs cut in half. And fentanyl is no longer being shipped over too.
That's like saying I punched somebody, and as that person fell down, he landed on his enemy. Like that wouldn't make him a genius at fighting, right?
Well, and that would absolutely make him a genius at fighting. Are you kidding me? punch somebody and like strategically,
so, maybe.
like then they fall backwards onto like a different
I had
enemy.
a fly in
That's
my
some fucking
face.
John Wick shit.
I had a fly in my face, so I stepped in a rake and it smacked me and it killed the fly. Right? That means I'm a genius.
But
no,
the tariffs would be lower. I thought we hated tariffs.
Friend. Lactoid. Yes, I do. Which is why I would say
so it'd be 10%.
Listen, because you already know this. I know you do, right? Which is why Trump it's weird you're making this argument. Hold on. I know you know this because you already agreed to this previously, right? That like this whole idea was stupid. That this was a poor way of implementing it, right? So you can say you can have a poor plan that has a positive outcome. That doesn't mean that I call a person a genius for doing that. If you stumble into a good outcome, that doesn't mean I can say, "Hey, good work on the good outcome," but I'm not going to say the plan was a genius plan because it was a bad plan. Now,
like when you're playing pool and you hit all the balls and one random ball goes in.
Yeah, but if he does that for every like country that he doesn't deal with, I'm gonna start saying maybe he's just good at fucking pool. Maybe I was the idiot. I don't know.
Gun. I've got a roach on my shoulder, and I shoot myself with a gun, and now I have a near fatal wound. Right now, I've gotten rid of the bug. Right, I gotten rid of the bug, and now I'm bleeding half to death. Right, and so you're gonna say that's genius, good work, you got rid of the bug. But obviously, if
here's where I would say if whatever it lands up in terms of what the percentages are, if he ends up getting China to do the things on that list of 7 things that he wants, then I would say, okay, he's gotten somewhere, at least in terms of what his goals were. But also in the meantime, like I just sent you the numbers on it, the trade deficit went up, not down. The numbers just came out last week. Or a couple days ago, actually. And the trade deficit is continuing to rise. Now, all of that happened before this deal, so maybe it goes down after this deal. But right now, so far, trade deficits are still continuing to go up under the Trump administration.
Is that after Liberation Day, though? That the trade deficit after
it was for the month of March.
Okay, well then that's not after Liberation.
We don't have numbers for April.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Okay, well, hold on a second. We can't.
Well, hold on. You say that they went down.
Hold on. I have. Here, I'll show you. I have.
I'm ready to move on from this.
Okay. Before we move on, I'm gonna link you. I was looking at a census.gov article. Sure. I wanted to address something Aiko said. So the reason why I brought up the art of the deal before is what Trump's strategy is, and he writes, or his ghostwriter writes this in the book.
His ghostwriter.
Which is you start out with like an absurd position, and like you make wildly flamboyant statements, and then you hammer them as hard as you can, and then you come down to a compromise, which is like you surrendered almost everything that you started out with, which you never actually intended to get. But when you actually look at the deal at the end, it's not a bad deal. It's actually a pretty good deal. The fact that he got them down to 10% and we're still at 30 and tariffs are important to Trump for some reason, that's, I think, pretty impressive considering where we were. And if he's able to, like, let's say he does get them to like cut out the fentanyl or whatever, and then he cuts it down an additional 20, now we're at 10%, they're at 10%. And there's no more fentanyl, like a national security risk, I think, from China has been addressed. I think it'd be pretty significant. It'd be pretty impressive. I think you would have to give it. You would have to give it to him.
No.
Okay. All right.
I wouldn't have to do that. Why? Because between between this Liberation Day, April 2nd, right, and whenever the actual deal comes through, not this, but the actual deal comes through that you're referring to, right? When that happens, between then and now, we're going to have empty store shelves in American cities across the board. Prices are going to skyrocket for Americans. The bond market is now inverted, right? The bond market, all of a sudden, people don't think that the United States is a good place to put their money, right? That's what scared Trump previously, right? When he had the
stock market doesn't matter, okay?
No, I didn't say stock market. I said bond market. Great. So bond market, that did matter. Because now the U.S. is not considered a safe place to put your money into. That's a big fucking deal, actually, right? So if you're saying in the end, well, it turns out he got the China tariffs 10% lower from where they were after I first started this trade war, right? After they retaliated the first time, you're saying 2018, he starts the initial trade war. China sets these rates at that point. I believe that's the case. Again, I have to like finish reading that article. But like, if that's the case, then that means that all he's done is get it at half the rate from a mess that he started in the first place.
Wait. Get what from half the? No. They were at 8%, and we were at 3.4 or something, right?
Yes. And then
we were at like less. We were at less than they were.
No. I'm saying it was at 8%, but then you're saying it went to 20%, correct?
Yeah, and now
later
10,
on,
and now 10.
And when did it go to 20%?
I was probably the 2019, 2020 trade war.
Got them there to. So you're saying that at the end of this, we'll have a 10% tariff against us from China, right? But the only reason it was 10%, 20% to begin with was because of what Trump did in the first place, his first trade war.
I mean, I don't.
But
think
also, like,
8 to 10% is not a huge deal. I don't know. But go ahead.
Yeah, I know it's not a huge deal. So why would I give him credit for that?
Because why would I give him credit for that? Stops all fentanyl. I don't fucking know. Maybe he can even get it down below 10%.
Yeah, because
wouldn't that be impressive?
Prime, I've got to go.
What if he gets it to 0%? Well, will you admit that? Will you admit that he's a winner if you get it down to 0% from China?
0%.
No, not if he does a massive harm to the American public. No, I would say it would be a win if he did it without doing a massive economic shock to the U.S. economy. You keep forgetting that part, right? But trust me, you're going to remember that part
when long-term gains from 0%.
When there are empty U.S. store shelves, which we're seeing now, right? Which is rolling out now. Now that the imports have stopped, that they've drastically lowered, right? It will take 60 days. It's going to take 2 months to get it back to where it was, right? It'll take 30 days for orders will have to go in, right? They'll have to fill the orders, and then they'll have to put it on ships. It'll take a month for those orders to come to us, right? And so it could take up to 2 months after the actual deal happens before we can get back to normal. So right? It's not 2 months from today, 2 months from whenever the actual deal happens. And so until then, we'll have empty American store shelves. So no, Lactoid, I will not say that's a win. You understand this. Stop.
No. Hold on. Unironically, no. This is genuinely a belief I hold. If he's able to use this to like negotiate China down to like they have like 0% tariffs on us or like some ridiculously low % tariffs on us, that will 100% be worth like a couple months of nothing on shelves. 100% in the long term. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, then you and I disagree. Aiko, what happened to you? Are you still there, friend?
No, I think he was trying to say that he had to leave.
Oh,
what?
Okay.
Is my mic better?
No, it's not. It's absolutely not.
I have no idea what's going on with your mic.
Who
man.
joins?
Yeah, it's still doing that double thing.
He wasn't
I like to. Yeah, I'd like to move on to find. I'm going to unmute Gibbs as well. We'll get started with the topic. I'll give my. I'll let Gibbs give his piece, and I'll give up my final piece on this as well, and then we can move on. Okay. Let me unmute Gibbs. And second. All right, Gibbs. Give your final piece on this.
I mean, it's real simple. We'll see if I get all the way through this without getting interrupted. But it's real simple. There's a reason why I had to get muted. And the reason why is because Prime took a whooping so bad it was of biblical proportions. The reason I say that is it's pretty clear. First, China said they're not going to ever kneel down. Secondly, Trump didn't change the tariffs and didn't change them until the day the deal was struck. So they came in under pressure, despite what they said, which guess what? That's pretty provable. Prime even proved it for me. He admitted it didn't change before we got there. Then they go there, they negotiate. Black Toy brought up an interesting point that I didn't even factor in, but this is something that I know the left doesn't understand, and it's called economics. And we're going to talk about math for a second. We're just going to use basic math, all right, guys? So this is China. China was at 8% originally, right? Now, Prime wants to say this is all bad for America. That's debatable because I'm fucking loving it. Then it goes to 120% when they fight back, and then it goes down to 10%, all right? So overall, this is a plus 2%, guys. You see this? 2%. All right, overall. Now, America, we're at 3% originally. That goes to 145%. Now we're at 30%. That's a plus 27%. Now, let me tell y'all something. I don't know about y'all, but whenever we look at this, if my Steiner math is correct, that looks like we have basically 20% overall difference. And it's 27% overall increase from the beginning. Now, if you don't understand how this is going to help us with the trade deficit, why don't we just do some simple numbers? Let's take the 100. Let's do 100. If our trade deficit is at 100, and they're taxing us at 8%. Suddenly, Prime understands taxes. That's crazy, being bad. But we're going to put them at 8%, and it's 108% after we get it. Cool, right? Then they're going to come over here, and now they raise the 110%. Okay, cool. That's 110%. Now we're at Mars, right? They were at 3%, so 103. This number at the end, if you can follow my math, when we subtract the now 130, which I'm saying 100 because everything's equal at 100. And we're not talking about the specific things because we're a net exporter and importer. We do both. It's going to be fine because we can replace those industries with other industries, which is Trump's whole promise. Prime calls us idiots because he doesn't have any substantive critical critique of this, and he now suddenly understands trickle-down economics. It's crazy. It's hilarious. We call this a moving goalpost. We saw it throughout this argument. That's the reason why he had to mute me. That's the reason why he's been arguing with Lactoid, who Lactoid honestly doesn't believe in tariffs. You know why Lactoid's arguing this position? Because it's ironic almost, because now Prime understands why libertarians don't like tariffs and they don't like taxes in general, because it's the government stepping in to the economy against free trade overall. That's a bad thing, generally. Now, when we have someone like China playing at an unfair advantage, and Trump does this, bam, now we have a fair trade deal, fair trade advantage. Prime can say all he wants and say this isn't a win, but that's just molding and coat, and the TDS is stopping the hard-based facts from sinking into his brain. That's the facts right there. And that's why I was muted for 45 minutes. Thank you.
Okay, I'll respond. So,
is the mic better?
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
good.
There we go.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate that.
What was the issue?
Yeah, as always, I say I don't want to talk about something. And I see Ali over there judging
the panel.
I it's the first half of the panel when I say I don't want to talk. No, I know. I actually no. I did want to talk about this. It's just that I have I didn't. Well, I didn't expect that.
Even if you
I didn't expect that Admiral Gibbs was going to say like the stupid things he did. So like,
the correct things.
I don't know. I would have to prove the most basic of facts, but it's okay.
You didn't prove any of those facts, though.
Yeah, you okay? That's fine. But what did I say at the start? The United States, our friend Gibbs here said that China has became our bitches or something, and so many colorful words, right? And the way only Gibbs can express things, right? China became our bitches, right? We'll summarize it that way. That didn't happen. China, my response: China's demand to be treated equally, right? And how did these how did this advancement and negotiations happen? Through
I have a real question.
Oh my God, please.
I'm sorry.
Please, it's just I want to get past this, but fine. I'll ask me the question. Fine.
All right, so we don't. I mean, I assume that most Americans want to be less dependent on other nations than more dependent. And you're saying that what I hear you saying is that we must be dependent upon China, which is converse to everything I believe in. That's
not what I said at all.
I don't want to sell them anything, and I don't want to buy anything from them. I would be perfectly happy if they stayed on their side of the ocean.
Okay, so
we
that's
sell,
not what I said.
the thing that you keep missing is that, yeah, sure. We buy from them. We buy more manufactured goods, but they need the raw materials from us. And if we keep the raw materials,
they don't. They don't get the raw materials from us. They get it from all over the world. What are you talking about? We don't just send the raw materials. We send the design. What are you talking about? We send some raw materials. I mean, we might sell some lumber and some steel.
Are we selling them Nintendos?
Are we selling them Nintendos? No, we're not selling them Nintendos. Why would Nintendo's a Japanese company?
What do we sell them?
What
did the Chinese buy from us?
iPhones?
Not the materials necessary for all the things that we need. Some of the things we give some raw materials, but the raw materials that we send them aren't necessarily like equal American products, right? They come in for a very specific goal. Like it's not like we're sending. We're not selling them raw materials to create their exports to us. You understand that, right?
Right. So why don't we keep
Okay.
them here, cut out the middleman, and just make them ourselves?
Okay, I'll explain to you exactly why. Explain exactly why,
Please
right?
do, because I do own a manufacturing company.
Okay, that's nice for you, right? The
Please
reason
expose me
why.
how I can make more money, Prime.
Okay, well, I'm not. Well, I'm not trying to do that, but that's not my goal.
Okay.
The reason why, okay, this part's important, is because we have moved on from as an industrial economy.
That's
So
absolutely false. We're still the largest manufacturing country in the world. That's absolutely false.
we
You can't
we
lie to me,
have
Prime.
moved on. So much of our industrial base has left. That's why Michigan is empty, right? Those plants moved
Yeah, they
to
left Michigan. They're all
Mexico.
down here. They're all down the road from me in
They're
Alabama.
that Hun, we do far less manufacturing than we used to. Textiles are gone, right? We used to do textiles. Textiles are in China, right? We used to do I don't know. We used to do everything.
They moved
Name a thing that we
Canada.
didn't do. It would be
You're
easier,
not
right?
making you're making my case more
Oh
than
my
you're
God!
making
Shut up for a
yours.
second. Let me answer the question. We have moved on. We're moving on to a service-based economy, to
I
a
don't believe
digital.
that at all.
I don't care if you don't believe it.
What
So I'm
services do
giving
we
you.
provide,
Shut.
Prime?
AWS, Amazon Web Services. That's a service. YouTube is a service.
Yeah,
Google
we're a
is a service.
media.
Facebook
We
is a
output
service.
content.
Like literally, this StreamYard, what we're
Yeah.
using, Discord is a service, right? Used
Yeah.
internationally. These are the services that we provide as the
Isn't
economy.
Discord owned
However,
by like
shut up for a
Valve?
second. Oh my God, if you want the answer, let me give it to you, because I'm trying to give it to you. I'm desperately trying to move on, right? Look at Chai. She's struggling. She's struggling right now. Okay, all right. So I'm trying to move on. So we have largely moved on as an industrial economy. So much of our workers, right, aren't factory workers. They are in terms of services. A lot of them are domestic services, right, within like retail or like for travel, right, like for hospitality. Like we've diversified our economy seriously in major ways, right? This is what has happened for many Western economies, is that they've diversified. They used to make a lot of things, within their own country, but then they started global trade and then started to export some of those industries, right, to places that were cheaper. Now, I want a lot of that, or I want some of that back, right? When I say I don't want to rely on others, right, that means just for critical goods. Our chips, right, or computer chips, we shouldn't be relying on Taiwan to provide that for us. That's crazy. That's crazy, right? I've been arguing literally since college. I remember in my dorm room arguing with people saying, "Hey, why don't we manufacture chips here?" And they said, "It's impossible to do that. What are you talking about, Prime? That's literally impossible." Well, of course we can't do that. But we did previously, and we can do it again. We can actually build that. That's what um, Biden was trying to work on with the CHIPS Act, right? He was trying to stimulate that, but then Trump didn't want to follow through with that. He wasn't a fan. Um, I want strategic things to come back. Pharmaceuticals, as we saw during the COVID crisis, right? Disaster that they're made in India and China, right? And so when they don't want to hand them back over to us, right, because they're using pharmaceuticals for their own populations, right, then we're up the creek. I never want that to happen again. So pharmaceuticals should be made here in the States. I don't know. We can list, there might probably a few other critical things, but those are the only two that come top of my head, right? However, what we don't need is to create like cheap plastic toys, right? It's okay, or even things that are more complex, like an iPhone. We don't necessarily have to create iPhones here, right? That's not that's okay if we have a global supply chain, right? And they're not just created in China. Like the iPhone is created with the combination of like 70 plus countries. It's like a ridiculous supply chain there to create that thing. That's okay. That's okay, right? That's not, if China creates iPhones, that's not us relying on China. It's having a trade partner who is providing us a valuable service, right? And when it comes to cheap plastic toys, no, we don't need factory workers uh, uh, doing that. We can have our workers do things that are much more productive for the U.S. economy. Digital services like we're providing now is much more productive. Um, uh, yeah, like, so that's what I'm saying. Did you follow that? Hopefully.
Well, I followed it. I absolutely understood every bit of cope that and seething that there
Okay.
was there, and all that massive,
Cope and seething.
long-winded explanation about why you don't like America and you want us to fail. I love you, Prime. You are the best.
True.
You are
That's
the
that's
best.
what I
You
said.
are
Indeed.
the
Okay.
best. I gotta be honest with you, man.
Okay.
Because Prime
Literally,
doesn't live
so much
here.
of that was just so far off
I was
base.
to fail.
We've got to do that as a topic one night, or better yet, come on my channel and we'll rage it out there. I'll get it there for you. That way I
Okay.
can't be muted and stuff. But I love the energy tonight. Let's get into this, man. I'm ready to go.
Well,
Okay.
that level of argumentation always confuses me. Like the people that live here just hate this country, want it to fail, but work here at the same time, and just like it's never made any sense to me.
It's never,
Ali,
it always amazes me why people discount American excellence. We don't need to make cheap plastic toys. Somebody
Ali,
does. Somebody
Ali,
does.
Ali,
Somebody
I
absolutely does.
say,
You
I
know,
say, hey,
there's still
instead of making
there's still a
American
company down
excellence,
the
instead of
road from
instead of
baby.
paying
whatever.
workers shit to make cheap plastic toys, I say, hey, let's pay our workers more, right, to do more productive services,
Blue
right? And
collar
he
makes
says,
great money.
I want America to fail because of that reason. Okay, got
Well,
it.
you
That's
you
fine.
don't like blue collar apparently.
Listen, it's all right. Last week
Yeah,
they
it's
were
fine.
arguing that we shouldn't have any like Muslim Brotherhood people in, and then this week
I
Trump
didn't say
accepts
that.
$400 million from Qatar. And so, like, I was just wondering if the Muslim Brotherhood is tapped into Trump. Should we investigate him,
Oh
or
my God.
is he working with a terrorist
Maybe next week we
organization?
might talk about the bribe. So my final words, and oh my God, I've been trying to move on. Final words. One, China didn't kneel down. That's crazy. It was bilateral negotiations. So they demand to be treated on equal footing. That's exactly what happened. So Gibbs never managed to prove his point ever, ever. But the cope is real. Um, uh, he's asking. He's saying that there was a trade deal, but there was a trade deal that addressed literally nothing that was set out, that was discussed, right? Like the whole list of things that Trump demanded, not a single thing of that was addressed. Nothing, right? The thing that he wants, you can get any of it. The thing that China wants, the lowering of the trade barriers, right? Smashing success for China. Okay, but it sounds like China kneeled down. All right, sure. When will this be a success? And so I'll answer that for the future, right? And you can clip this later on, Gibbs. When will this be success? This will be a success when Trump can negotiate the trade deal, where he can get all the things that he demands, right? And do that without having destroyed the American economy, right? Well, without having empty American store shelves, without having many small, medium-sized businesses close because they can't handle the trade barriers that Trump put in place, right? If at the end of this, and the end of this means that like we renormalize relations with China, wherever that happens to be, right? Wherever those levels have to be. Once we renormalize, and we haven't lost a bunch of small businesses, and we haven't lost a bunch of medium-sized businesses, and the U.S. Hasn't lost its standing in the world as a safe um, place investment for foreign dollars. If that's the case, and Trump got all he wants, then I agree, right? But remember, it's not when the deal is signed, right? This part is going because Gibbs is going to forget this part later on, right? Guaranteed. It's not when the trade is signed. It's when we've renormalized our trade flows, right? So that means like afterwards. So like when companies start making deals again with China, when goods start flowing, when American store shelves are full, when that's the case, right? Then we can reassess. Did it have a massive blow against small businesses, medium-sized businesses? What's the bond market looking like? After that, if those aren't crushed, and Trump has gotten all the things he wants and hasn't moved the goalposts because he does that oftentimes, Donald Trump, then I can call it success. So let's reassess then.
Lactoid.
That won't be for
Can I
like
ask you a question, Prime?
No, don't ask me a question. You want me to move on. I know you want me to move on. Don't ask me a question.
Normalized trade deals? That doesn't sound like a win to me.
No,
that sounds like a loss.
Dude,
I don't want
no
normalization.
trade ever. No trade.
Gibbs, you didn't listen to me. Gibbs,
Any
Gibbs,
trade. Want to put a dome over America.
You're saying it's a win when I would say that's an L.
Gibbs, you didn't listen to me, right? What did I say by normalized? When trade flows have normalized.
Yeah, trade flows have normalized. Why is that necessarily a good thing?
Okay, sorry. I'm gonna move on. We're gonna move on. Fine. This is fine.
Like that's like not a metric that we want though. Like you understand that, right?
Hold on, but you've
been watching a lot of Jay Dyer lately, huh, Gibbs?
When will I call a success?
I don't even know who that is, to be totally honest with you.
I said, when will I call it success? Not when Gibbs will call it success. Gibbs thinks it's a success already, right?
Yeah,
and that's a dumb fuck thing to think, right? Gibbs has dumb fuck thoughts, right? And so obviously, I don't care where you think it's success. I'm giving you my answer. That's why it's my final word. I gave you your final word. I gave you your final word. I gave my final word. I gave my final word. That's where I'm setting the success.
Okay.
And so when you are asking me afterwards, after the fact, right? These are the things I'm looking for. That's what I'm looking for. So there's going to be trade flows afterwards, after this deal, right? Like Scott Bessent and Trump, they don't want a decoupling from China. They said that literally fucking today. Mm-hmm. So there's going to be trade flows. So they're going to renormalize wherever that happens to be the new balance. I don't know where it's going to be. At that point in time, then I'm saying let's reassess and we'll look for those criteria. That's what I'm saying. All right, so we can move on. Hello, everyone.
Back to Elon Musk.
No, God. This is a very roundtable, which we have Mondays, 8 p.m. Eastern. Got a good group of guests here. And I'm very happy to have them. So we'll introduce them in a second. You know what I wasn't looking at? I wasn't looking at YouTube. Let's see if that's a problem. We're gonna have to see if that's a problem later on. Oh my God.
You were locked in, Prime.
Nope.
You were
locked
so
in.
locked in.
Okay. So we'll deal with that later. Anyway, thanks for everyone for being here. We're gonna give introductions. We'll start with the topic though. If you enjoyed any of that mess, that was a messy fight. So consider subbing to the channel, gifting bits or gifting subs, so we continue these discussions. Hopefully less messy. I thank everyone for being here. So the topic for the day, the actual topic, is about airlines. In a new expose, it has been revealed that airlines and travel agencies are selling the personal details of all their customers to the Trump administration through an initiative called the Travel Intelligence Program, which was established soon after the 9/11 attacks. The government tracks billions of ticket purchases and flight details. Though, as far as we know, this particular database only goes as far back as the first Trump admin. ICE has been the ICE Department, Immigration, has been using this data in its efforts to enforce Trump's immigration policies. Is this a problem? To keep Americans safe, shouldn't law enforcement have access to this level of personal data? Should there be any limits to their ability to access this information? Or can we trust that the government will only use this for legitimate purposes? So yeah, I saw this article and it was quite fascinating. I don't think we knew about this database before this article. I think this is like brand new information. But yeah, there is a corporation, the airline something ACR something. I forget it's a corporation, and it sits between airlines, right, the ones who actually fly you, and travel agencies. And this like handles your transactions. The transactions go through it. It normalizes the transactions and it pushes them through, so that everyone gets the money and they get their ticket details. They have an incredible amount of traffic comes through here. All that data, right? Your name, your financial details, how you paid for it, right? Your credit card, you used to pay for it, your address, where you're flying from, where you're going, all the information is being sold to the U.S. government by this corporation. Again, I forget the name of it. But it's doing it under this intelligence program called the Travel Intelligence Program. So it was known previously. So before this, it was known previously that the government was buying some of this information directly from the airlines and from other sources. But this is a new level. Apparently, there is information coming from this program that isn't available anywhere else, right? And it aggregates it all into one place and presents it in a matter where it's just simply one database that they can easily delve through. So the government is buying our information. As far as I know, there's no warrants involved. As far as I know, there's no warrants involved. But they get your private information any which way. What I want to examine is it okay, right? Is it something to be worried about? Is something to care? Lots of other people have information, right? Not just the government's buying it, but like they sell it to private advertisers, right? To understand the travel patterns of the U.S. population, right? And of foreigners coming in. There's a lot of money. There's a lot of value within that data. So other people are using it. What does it make if the government is using it, right? Maybe it's not a big deal at all. So that's what I want to examine. We'll go down the line. You can introduce yourself and give an opening statement.
Yeah, I'm Lactoid. You can find me at Lactoid TV on Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube. I struggle a lot with this. The first, my kind of initial gut reaction is fuck the government. They shouldn't be looking at my shit. I think that the expansions of the NSA is criminal, and the continued antagonism towards Edward Snowden and other whistleblowers, I think, is fucked up. That all being said, I guess, and the article wasn't super clear what all details were being shared. Maybe they don't know. There's some details that I think would be it's rational that if the airline themselves provides it, I think it'd probably be understandable that they would be able to, like, non-private information. So, for example, if I see somebody get on a bus or get in a car and I'm like in a public space and I make note of that, you have no expectation of privacy. The fact that you got on the bus. I would assume the exact same concept works with a plane, because an airport's a public place. It's not a private place. And so the fact that you're in a public place and people are recording what flights you're getting on, and then that's being sold to the government, that's not necessarily a violation of privacy directly, that I think is super concerning. But depending on the financial data they're getting access to, that could be fucked up, right? To the point where if I'm buying a plane ticket and the expectation is they're keeping my financial credentials secret, and then they're sharing that with the government, that's fucked up. So I guess it really depends on the very specific details that are being shared. But generally, I think the government should have to prove why it needs information, and this to me seems pretty blanket, which I'm generally opposed to.
Okay, I'm gonna go to the next person, but quickly. I wasn't looking at the super chats.
You just check YouTube. What the fuck?
Yeah, I was busy. Sorry, it's my fault. Okay, all right. I want to note it though that like when Corey isn't here last week, I'm on top of the super chats completely. When
I wasn't there to witness it. This can all be made up. It could be a
buddy,
lie.
I was on top of the super chats the entire time.
All right, if you say.
Alexander Wynn, a super chat at some point in time. I don't want to say what time it came in. He says there's always someone to drop the shock market by a few trillion to let us plebs but in low. I'm not sure exactly what you meant by that. But he's saying like Trump is shocking the market by trillions of dollars. Thank you for the $5 super chat. Alexander Wynn, $10. We're planning the planning phase of the trade deal's potential plan culture. That's when I was consulting Gibbs. Thank you for that. $10. Alexander Wynn, $5. Are conservatives able to repass the headline of an article? No, they aren't. $5 from Alexander Wynn. Sean, gifting a membership. Thank you so much. And then Aiko, he came in. He basically said for $10, he said all the things he said when he came into the chat just a bit ago, talking about Trump's demands, his little list of demands that weren't met. So thank you him for the $10. Okay, so I'm gonna have to hold that. That's my fault. I'm gonna have to move on for lives. Okay, let's try. Hopefully you're better at this than I am.
Yeah, I can definitely do under a minute. I don't think either of you can. So hi, I'm Chai. I play video games and I like watching true crime. I think that while privacy could be seen as a right, it could also be seen as a privilege, and you need to find their line between a right and a privilege, and you need to put a subpoena somewhere in between that, and you need to make sure there's certain due processes involved, because I don't want just anyone to have my information, but I also know it's critical to have that information sometimes.
Thank you. Gibbs, please.
Yeah, I mean, this is just really rich to me at this point. I'm just like laughing all the way to the bank as once again the Trump administration gets another W. I'm sitting here looking at this. You know, I was too young to really protest the Patriot Act, but you know, I tend to lean to my libertarian counterparts on this one and say, "Wow, fuck the government, fuck them," right? That's my initial reaction, right? But nobody, you know, first they came and they dropped the Patriot Act, then they powered up the NSA even more, and nobody said nothing. And now that a Republican is in office and using the same tools and same tactics that the evil leftists have been using, oh, suddenly, Lord and Lord, it's so bad. And guess what? This is what I voted for. I'm excited that these illegal aliens are getting busted. I'm happy these companies are selling it to them. You know, I don't like it overall because I don't like big government. I don't like them having all this info. But at this point, fuck it. If it's going to work in my favor, I'm not even going to be ashamed to take the win. I'm excited about it. I'm tired of apologizing about it. I'm pumped. And, you know, Dems always want to try to paint what I'm saying as crazy or stupid and then give me economics lessons, but they don't even know economics. So here, guess what? I'm going to explain immigration to y'all because I do understand immigration. This guy, illegal. Oh, this company sell that info. We figure it out. They take him. They ship him out. That's a W. More of that, please.
Thank you. Ali.
Yeah, no, I'm not a fan of all my data being sold across the world for various things. It's not just this flight thing, although this does concern me a little bit. But at this point, man, I've kind of just come to terms with the fact that there is real no privacy. If I'm using public services, if I'm using Uber, if I'm going on flights, if I'm on the internet, if I'm whatever it may be, there just is no privacy in anymore. So I guess the best bet is if you're, don't do anything bad, and if you're gonna do something bad, try really, really hard to get away with it. But yeah, you're just, you can't do it. So I've kind of just I've accepted fate here. I can only bitch about it so much, and my biases are going to be I just don't like ICE, so I don't want them to have any information. But that's not a real argument.
Okay, Grid.
Okay, yeah, I'm Grid One. I have a channel over on YouTube that I say stuff and do cool things. You're welcome to visit. This is I don't even know why we're talking about this. This is there's no reason to even talk about it because it does not break the Fourth Amendment protections of privacy. You have no expectation of privacy once you give your data to a third person, unless you sign a contract and you literally every single one of you check that box that says okay to share your data, whether you know it or not. And so when the government buys that, not just the government buys it, but all the marketing companies. ACR is not a government entity, it's a private corporation, and they are there to make profit. And they're there to do the most libertarian thing in the world, and that is give free access to everybody's data that wants to pay for it. And you guys click the button that says it's okay to do so. So therefore, you have no expectation of privacy. And if you're that big, if you don't want your data shared, don't fly commercial. Drive your car. But then again, your driver's license information is already in the system. It seems like this is a no-brainer. I don't even know why we're talking about it, but we're going to have a good time talking about it because somebody's going to say something and it's going to get really funny. And I can't wait. So let's get into it and have some fun.
I really thought he was going to say fly private. I thought that's what he was going to go with.
You don't have money to do that.
I fly myself, so.
Yeah. Well, Corey is a known comedian. I'm sure he'll say something funny. Please go ahead.
Well, a Canadian comedian like Steven Crowder, so pretty low tier. But yeah, grateful to be here as always. You can find me on Twitch, Corey Campbell 84, Twitter, X, YouTube, Instagram is Corey Campbell. And yeah, when it comes to this topic, or I think in my mind, privacy in general, it's at least to me, it's a tricky topic. I sort of echo some of the sentiments that Lactoid went through in terms of like, yeah, generally speaking, as a heuristic, I want to minimize giving information to the government or like the bare minimum possible. But I recognize that there are trade-offs to that, as in I'm not a privacy at all cost type of person. Based off of what's in the article, at least it seems to sort of hint at that it's not just ticket sales. It's like it alludes to maybe like credit card information. I think that oversteps a line if in fact that's true. But if it's just ticket sales information, like you bought a ticket, in principle, I'm not opposed to that. But based off of what was just brought up, I think by Grid in terms of like this is publicly available information. I'm curious if that extends to, let's say, gun purchases, as in would you be okay with the government having a list of people that like, well, we know that you bought a gun because we can see you go into the store and we can see that you came out with a gun. No, I've not. I have no problem saying that. No, I don't hide that I've never bought a gun.
So you fill out this form. It's called a 4473. It's kept on file for 5 years, and they run a background check on you. And so, yeah, actually, the government can, in fact, run a check to see if you have a gun.
Yeah, and
now,
so
they cannot. They don't know what type it is.
And
they only know whether it was
okay
a pistol or a rifle, or a long gun or a pistol. That's it.
And are you okay with that? Even though it's my opening statement, but that's something
I don't
you're
have
okay
a choice.
with.
It's the law.
That doesn't answer my question. That's not what I meant. So yeah, you're right, Grid. Someone is going to say something funny. You just did it. So are you okay with that?
I don't actually have a problem with it as long as we're not registering. Registering is the next level of, and that is the path to confiscation. The fact that somebody wants to do a background check and keep a minimum amount of information on file is irrelevant, right? I mean, they could do the same thing with the ammunition purchases. They could do this. I mean, look, and it's fine. I don't really care because
okay, I'm pretty sure.
Honestly, I buy most of my guns at Home Depot anyway.
But hold on, the harder the question that he's
in the parking lot.
And thank you for bringing thank you for bringing this up, Corey. The harder the question, right, is about the amount of information, right? So the government has disparate amounts of information on us through various means. And one of them is like the form that you talked about, right? When you go buy a gun, you have to go like do an FBI background check, and there's a minimum amount of information that is sent to them. But there could be a lot more information, right? Like what if there was, we just like replicate this this situation. What if there was a corporation that sat between your transactions, right? That like all of your transactions ended up going through this corporation. Now it's a private industry, right? It's a private entity. That just happens to have a very large database that includes your address, your name, your financial details you used for this transaction, the exact type of gun, and anything else you might have bought there, right? It sat between you all. And if you go to the gun store, well, the gun store is going to let you know, well, this exists, right? It'll be within a form that you have to sign. But it's all the gun stores. Pretty much all the gun stores.
Okay. I can actually.
And then that information, and then finally, last thing is that it's sold to the government afterwards. But yeah, go ahead.
Well, I mean, it's a good attempt at an argument, but here's the thing. The government already has that information. They already know I have guns. As a matter of fact, because I own machine guns, suppressors, and short-barreled rifles, they know exactly what they are. The serial numbers are on file in some cabinet that the ATF has. I've allowed but here's the thing. I allowed that to happen because I went and chose to make those purchases. Okay. I knew what I was getting into. I filled out the form. I submitted my fingerprint. That was my choice.
Sure.
Now, if you're asking, can does a gun, say if a gun shop, for example, kept a database of everything they sold me, I'm positive that happens. Now, I don't believe, because that is a federally protected form, that they can then sell that information, because they're not collecting that information for them. And I don't agree, and I never check any box that says I agree to be marketed to or anything like that. But the difference is when you're flying, for example, You are using a service and you are literally giving them your information and checking the box that says, okay, it's fine, whatever.
So why don't we compare this to something more realistic, like medical, because you have to use that service sometimes, right? So medically, you have a right to privacy. So why can't you have a right to privacy over your flying logs and everything that comes with that?
I don't believe you do actually have as much privacy in your medical records as people think. The Hippocratic Oath has been broken several times, and we know that.
That's not
I think you're
talking about HIPAA.
conflating things. Yeah,
the
HIPAA
laws. Yeah, that's
the HIPAA laws. Yeah, I mean they've been broken several times. We saw that back in 2020 in the unpleasantness, and you know, I don't know that already hasn't been broken. Remember contact tracing? Does anybody remember contact tracing?
Yeah.
Okay. So does that answer your question?
Why would it?
Why would it not? You went and got you got a shot and you had to present a card to go into the museum, right? Remember that?
The museum? What
Or, well, it just
COVID shots when you were getting when are you talking about the COVID shots when you got the COVID ID?
Oh.
That's not contact tracing, the hun. But contact tracing is different.
Well, the contact tracing came before that, right? Contact tracing came before that.
What do you think contact tracing is?
That's where you were. I guess you were patterned as far as where you went in a day and how many people you interacted with. Are we talking about? Are we talking past each other on this?
So I'm trying to make sure that we're not. So like contact tracing is when like if there's an infection, right? Like a person who has had a known infection, that person they follow them, they see where they went, right? And who they interacted with, right? Friends, family, they went to a general store, right? And then they notify all those people whether they're close contact with or if they're just within the store with, right? That you might be infected. That's contact tracing. So what does that have to do with? Sorry, what?
Does that violate HIPAA?
Why would it? That's not covered under HIPAA.
I mean, I don't know how else to ask the question.
It's not.
If you know someone is sick and you're following them around, or you're asking them to self-identify where they've been, and then you notify all those people that, hey, you've been around a contagious person, without that person's permission or knowledge,
it's not HIPAA protected
is that violating HIPAA?
No, it's not violating HIPAA. So all this is.
I mean, I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a medical.
I'm answering you, right? Like,
yeah.
So yeah, it simply was. Hey, like, so we know you have an infected person. We talk to this infected person. We retrace their steps, right? Or if they're dead, maybe they might be dead. We can like use investigative powers to like follow where they went, right? The places you go isn't covered under HIPAA. HIPAA is about medical records, right? So this is simply finding out your steps within the last day or the last few weeks, and then contacting those other individuals.
That's HIPAA's more about a doctor. HIPAA's more about like a doctor like revealing medical information about a patient like to the public, right? Like it's just like kind of like talking like, oh, I saw this patient today. His name is this. His name is that. But there's a difference when there's an outbreak and you're trying to contain an outbreak versus just like frivolous, like just any medical information.
Sure. But what I'm saying is that if you, all right, Prime, let's say that you know that I have, you know, whatever. And you know that I've been in touch with Gibbs and Lactoid, and you go to them without my knowledge and say, "Hey, this guy, he has this. We're doing contact tracing, and he has this contagion. You need to get yourself checked." Is that a violation of HIPAA?
If I do it, I'm not within the medical industry.
I mean, if you're a medical professional, I mean, but.
I don't think that's how it goes, but yeah, that would be if you just randomly reveal medical information about a patient to people. Yeah, but it's not when it's done through like an outbreak. You contact that person, they're willingly giving you the information.
Okay, so we're willing to break that at some point, right? We're willing to.
We aren't. So even when contact tracing happened, contact tracing didn't say like if I just randomly hit you like interact with you in the store, we don't know each other, right? You just came to the store and you were sick, you were infected, and then they put out a blast, right, of information that doesn't tell me, hey, Grid, right, living at this address, he has this sickness. No, you came in contact with a person. If it's a close person, you can probably figure out who it was.
They were
right?
using phones. They were using your car's GPS. They were using your lock.
That's not HIPAA violation.
At work. They were using all of these different electronic footprints to track people.
But yeah, it's not HIPAA violation.
Without their knowledge, by the way.
Yeah, and I think that okay, so now we're moving on from that. So it's not a HIPAA thing. However, you're talking about generalized privacy within our country. That's an issue, and that's what the whole purpose of this conversation is. Your car, in case you don't know, if you bought a car like in the last 10 years, maybe even 15, but I'm not sure, but at least in the last decade, right? It has a computer inside of it. That computer is collecting a trove of information, more than you think, right? A lot more than you think. It knows how much you weigh, right? It knows when you get in and get out. It knows your travel history. It knows a whole list of information, a lot more than you think that your car would do. That information is then being sent to your car manufacturer, and they sell that information as well, right? So like
information's a big business.
Yeah, information. Yeah, big data is a big is a big business. Is everyone okay with that? Right. So the one thing I wanted to add previously, right, to your thing, Grid, you talked about, hey, well, this is a voluntary choice. You check the box for the ticket sale, right? Yeah. Here's the thing. For a lot of this information that they are collecting and selling, you check the box, but this is a like a EULA, right? EULA, EULA, end user license.
End user licensing agreement.
Yeah. This is like.
Yeah, I know what it is.
Yeah, sure. I mean, for the audience. What this is that when you click like on a EULA, like you have to agree or you can't use the product.
Sure.
If you're looking to go through to fly, right, to get a ticket, you have to agree with that. It's not like, hey, I'm allowing you to share.
ID.
Yeah. But like that's a different scenario from an optional checkbox that you don't have to click, where you don't have to share.
No, you don't have
right?
to fly.
Yeah, hold on. But you also don't have to. You also at the same time don't have to have a car, right? A lot of those. Hold on. A lot of those cars.
Again, these are.
Oh my god! Hold on, let me finish.
Hey, Greg, you don't have to pay taxes, actually.
Yeah, a lot of those cars. Oh my god! Let me just finish. We're almost done. A lot of those cars, right? When they're selling it to you, you don't have a choice. If you want a car, period, you can't opt out of these things, right? So you can just tell people, well, you don't have to have a car, you don't have to travel on a plane, you don't have to
use the internet,
any other number of things,
have a phone
within our society, right? You can't just be a hermit, right? But people have
there
to
are people
live.
that do that. You're making a great libertarian argument there.
But the point is, you should where people like me, the people like me who might have an issue with this, who might a more privacy focused society, is that we should have those choices to be able to use those critical services and not have our data be sold.
So is it that it's being sold to the government, or are you okay with it being sold to, basically anybody? Like are you okay with just I mean, and by the way, this isn't something that Trump started, but I mean, it started like Obama expanded it massively.
I don't think this is a partisan thing. I don't think we care about
I don't think it's the topic presentation was very specific, so I wanted to make sure that we had moved on from that.
Hold on, to be clear, hold on. What the article said was that the program, the travel information intelligence program, started soon after 9/11. Hold on, but this database, the one that we're discussing, as far as we know, that began under the Trump administration. Maybe it began earlier, but as far as we know, that began under the Trump administration. So let's be very clear.
I think it goes back a very long time.
Okay, well,
you mind if I go before you?
If you have information, then that would be great. If you have a source for that, then please present that.
Privilege.
Go ahead.
True. It's a quick question. My issue is less that the data is being sold, honestly, because I know it's going to be sold at the end of the day. My real issue with this is that I'm getting fucked over in that I'm buying a ticket, I'm using the service, I'm paying for the service, I'm checking the box. So they're making the money from me. Then they're taking my data, they're selling it. I'm not making anything off of that.
Yeah, you are the product. You are the product.
Well, I mean, but I'm also already paying for the product. So like, I'd like to at least get a cut. If I'm going to be the product, I'd like a percentage of my data being sold. Give me my cut.
That's the best thing ever, right there. I like that.
That's my serious gripe with it, is that they're making twice the amount of money on me, and I don't think that's reasonable or fair. I should at least get a percentage if I'm agreeing to my data being sold.
That's a really interesting point. So we're gonna lag to it and Gibbs, but that's a really interesting point, Ali. Right? It's one thing when it's free, Google is free, so I'm okay with my data being sold through Google because I'm using a free service, and they got to make their money somehow, right? And so if I'm going to continue that, I'm not going to do a paid subscription level of Google. If I'm going to do that, well, then yeah, then they should be able to use whatever data they're able to gather on me. I can accept that. But when I'm flying on the airline, I'm paying them a fuck ton of money, right? That doesn't mean I also want them to then go and sell my data. When I'm paying for a car, I'm paying a massive amount of money, one of the biggest purchases of my life, right? I didn't also say that you could then resell my data. No, that's a different thing. But Lactoid.
I'm gonna ask. It's a intentionally inflammatory hypothetical grid, but it's in order to prove my point.
Yeah,
would you be all right? Let's say the local water utility puts in their end user agreement that in order to have water to your house, they have to be able to put cameras in your bathroom. And you're free to say no, but then you don't have water.
Yeah.
Like, would this be reasonable?
Yeah, no, I know I have a well, so fuck those guys.
Okay, well, let's assume that you don't have a well.
He answered your question, right, Lactoid? Just like with me, he answered your question, right? Right to the point.
Let's assume you don't have a well. Let's assume you don't have a well. You're on city water.
Then the answer is build a well.
Then the answer is.
I mean, like,
he's going to start collecting rainwater.
This is what I think. I think that much like the water utility or airports, it seems like a little bit fucky to me that we're going to have this project that we're going to take tons of public money for. It's a public project that we're stealing money to build, and then we're going to take your money to build it, and then when you go to use it, you got to agree to all of our dumb fucking rules, and if you don't get to use it. There's something about that irks me. If I'm going to be forced to pay for this shit, then I get a say on what the terms are to use this shit. And now, if all the airline companies want to get together and build their own fucking airport, maybe at that point, sure, I got no say. But as long as you're taking my money, I should be able to say no shitty privacy bullshit in the user agreement.
I like that. And in this specific case, that's a great example. But there's so many places that sell your data. And one of the most evil is LexisNexis. You don't know what LexisNexis is? That is a legal network that holds all of your records. It is, and they sell your data. As a matter of fact, that was the Obama administration's favorite source was LexisNexis.
I know. You could do background checks on people. Background checks on people of Lexis. Yeah,
everything.
LexisNexis has a big not a monopoly, I don't think, but like they're big in like research articles and just like data, even laws. I think LexisNexis is the one where like a lot of municipalities don't have like digital archives of their laws, and that's like stored through LexisNexis, and I don't think they're allowed to like create a separate archive because now this is LexisNexis's like IP, the law under that municipality.
I have a ton of experience with Lexis. I mean, I'm telling you, like if you're in a big firm, you're either using LexisNexis or you're using Westlaw. One or the other.
It's bad.
The second one, Lactoid, the one that really bugs me is your cell phone. The fact that your cell phone provider can turn your phone on without your knowledge, that can listen to every single noise in the room without you knowing it. And the fact that the United States government and other governments have access to that same power is nuts. It's crazy. If I had to have a sensitive communication, you guys are worried about airplanes. I'm worried about my cell phone. and
you don't have
about cars.
But how does that? Okay, well, first let's give has been waiting. So go ahead.
Yeah, so I mean, to your question, Lactoid, I got a couple questions now. You know, we're gonna just walk through this, right? It's not you. Let's go to Grid here. Grid, you have a pilot's license, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, do you have a plane? You own that plane?
I have a couple planes, yeah.
This motherfucker's got a couple planes. You can't empathize with us lowly people, okay? You don't know what it's like.
Hold on. Let me ask you a question. All right, so I have a ranch. My uncle's got a ranch. He's built an airfield on his ranch. Now, say I wanted to pay you to fly me somewhere, and in my contract I said you can't sell my information after you flew me. Would that be allowed? Would you be able to come pick me up?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, so what y'all are saying is,
do you have a plane that can go across the Atlantic?
Hey, hold on. We can figure that out. We can figure out. That's beside the point. That's
I
irrelevant to what
think
we're
Gibbs
talking
can afford a global 5,000.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure if I like really wanted to, we can figure something out. But like, here's my point. Here's my point. So, okay, what you're telling me is that y'all don't like that these private companies, like I don't know, United, Delta, or whatever, are collecting your info and then reselling it to the government. All right, cool. Well, you don't like that they're going to put their cameras in the bathrooms at your house because they got your water. Cool. Well, the answer, like unironically, is in that case, build your own well. Or in this case, buy your own plane. Oh, I don't like that they have a car. Okay, cool. Guess what? You can build your own engine. Hold on. The trademark for the Model T, it's up. Guess what? You can build your own Model T. Now you say, oh, that doesn't work because I'm a private-centric individual. Well, guess what, buddy? I hate to break it to you. It is the year 2025, right?
Did you have to check
that up?
Are you checking the calendar?
That's the point. That's the point. It's so stupid, like what he's saying, that I have to go and check the year because it's the year 2025 and the year of our Lord, right? Check this out. That's 2,000 years after Jesus is supposed to be dead. You know, cool, or born, whatever. Doesn't matter.
That's
Check this out now.
heretical.
Okay,
What you just said.
Hold on. Now we're gonna go further back in time. The Earth is 4.6 billion years old or something. Cool. And on the Earth during that time period, humans have existed for what, like about 1 million years, maybe a couple 300,000 as Homo sapiens. In that time, Homo sapiens have existed. They have been able to fucking walk everywhere on this earth. They've been able to get berries from wherever they wanted. They've been able to kill cows. They've been able to kill lions. Crazy shit. Cool, they did it. Guess what? To this day, there is still North Sentinel Island. There's tribes in the Amazon that have never paid taxes. Guess what? They didn't agree to no taxes. They didn't sign up for them. I want to see where.
How are you an anarcho-primitivist as to everything except drone bombing the border? That's like the one thing.
Hold on. Well, the North Sentinel Island, find out what happens when you land there. Guess what? They spear you to death. So borders being important. So, Karen, check this out. I didn't sign a consent to any taxes. Guess what? When I flew United to go see Tim Pool with Prime, guess what Prime had to do and I had to do? We signed a contract and we get it. Now, I guess Prime, I don't know if he flew United, but I flew United. But if he had flown United, they would have made him sign a contract and fly. Now, with Grid here, if I didn't want to do that, Prime could have hired Grid to come fly him out there, right? If he didn't want his part. Anybody has the means. All you have to do is work hard.
No, not everybody has the means. Gibbs, even there are a large proportion of the people who will work hard their entire life who will not be able to afford a private plane or to consistently fly on private flights from somebody with a private plane.
Then they don't need to fly that place then. If they don't want to give up their info, it's a small price to pay. You're welcome.
Yeah, I know. Like this all or nothing argument just doesn't work because it's not reasonable, right? Like have a reasonable idea of a world where people do have to travel, where people do have to work, they do have to
pay for the airport, Gibbs.
Gibbs, are you?
Then you buy the plane. You buy the plane then, and you make your money on the plane.
No. Why are they giving my money for the airport?
Why are they taxing me for anything? I don't know, but I'm not going to blame the private company for winning.
I don't get why we're just like once again.
Why do you hate capitalism?
They're using the airport that I paid for.
Cool, that's already a thing. I'm playing.
Let's let Chai in. We're going to let Chai in.
Gibbs. Are you anti-subpoena, Gibbs? Like, are you just fully for them having everything? You just think that's the price you have to pay? Like, you don't care about a wall of protection at all?
No, what I care about is if I sign a contract, I'm not a piece of shit. So I realize that as someone that signed a contract, I now have to abide by those terms. And if I sign a contract with United, guess what? They now own that information. And since they own that information, they have every right to sell it to whoever the fuck they want. And if I don't want that information given out, guess what? Maybe I don't fucking fly United. I just go buy a Greyhound ticket for $68.
Well, I think part of the
they also sell your information.
The subpoena argument,
that's kind of like the issue.
Selling the information.
You can buy Greyhound cash. You don't have to buy that.
There's no expectation of privacy, but like if Gibbs and I have a conversation, and I tell him something, I don't have an expectation of privacy there, because now he knows it, and he can go he can go tell law enforcement officer, he's going to do bad things. He's going to do it. He said he was, and I can't do shit about that. The real issue with that a lot of people are having right now with this, which is weird because it's been going on forever, and airline tickets are the smallest of the reasons why you would care about it. Is that ICE is using this so that they don't have to go through the courts and tip their hand or and just clock. They're just like it's just access to information. The interesting thing is that I'm not even sure what information that they could get that they wouldn't already have. I mean, they already have your driver license number. They have your credit card records if they want them. If you have an iPhone, they have all the information in your phone if they want it. I really don't understand what information specifically they're getting, or if this is just like backup information, right? Like we have everything else, we might as well get that too. And
it's just
we
data
have
is
the
just
budget,
valuable.
so.
Data in all forms
So
Yeah,
is
data is all.
valuable.
Yeah, right. Data is valuable.
So
It had, and so
yeah.
it how much they actually use it, I don't know, but Ollie's right. Data is valuable, and
I'll
who knows?
yeah, just so reduce the yeah.
So in the article, it says specifically that when the person who is speaking for this company was questioned about whether or not foreign people have this intelligence as well, and they declined to answer on that. I'm not that comfortable with that. What do they need the information for? Like, it's different when it's my government, but they didn't even answer to that. So what would be your rebuttal to that?
Well, I mean, again, it's you're not dealing with a government you're not dealing with someone where there's an expectation of privacy. You have no expectation of privacy when you buy a plane ticket or use a public service. You can't have that expectation of privacy. If you expect privacy, then you have to treat it in a private manner. Taking a private car, taking a private train, taking a private plane. There's a reason there's private right in the name, because it once you go commercial, that information is public. Like there's no expectation of privacy.
I'm not even sure that applies in a car. Or I think that's a pretty.
No, you can get like personal drivers, and you
I
can
think
get
Lacto can
like
correct me.
private cars.
Is everything that happens in a car?
No, we could use the exact same logic though. You could say like, well, the government could make some kind of contract that in order to be on public roads, you have to sign an agreement that they get to keep a car, like a camera under your steering wheel directed at your crotch. And hey, man, you signed the agreement, bro. I mean, it's there, black and white.
I mean, and to extend it to an even stupider level,
the issue
what's
is you can't do
public? A
anything,
public library? Oh, so if you go to the public library, all your information's out. It's public. Public library with your date of birth.
This is exactly right. Like if we're talking about,
you say that in a mocking tone, but that's exactly right.
Well, no, the public library can't. Hold on. The public library can't have like a sheet that you sign, and now like they get your social security number. That's not how that works.
No, they just instead they just have drag shows for kids. I mean, like it's totally fine.
Why are you guys okay with companies double dipping on you? Like if you are capitalists, if you are like consumers, why are you okay with it? You're okay with them making money off you, you giving them all the information, and that you not benefiting at all. That's kind of like
I'm not okay
they don't
with
care
that.
about they don't care about the privacy, but care about that though.
Ollie, hold on. Here's the problem. You say we're not benefiting. Here's the thing. This is where you're wrong, and I'll tell you, it's real simple, right? Mm-hmm. Guess what? You got to fly on the plane. The plane. You got to fly on that. That was you benefiting. So after that's done, tough titties. You already So like say
no. That's fair.
I buy a ticket. And it says on the contract, right by the ticket, your information will be shared with other companies which we see fit. You go, okay, I've agreed to this. Guess what? You don't have any say to that no more. And it's not double dipping. It's a single dip. It's a single dip because the service that you purchased was the plane flight. And now to pay for that plane flight, to make it economically viable for them to continue working as a flight carrier for people nationwide, is they didn't turn around and sell that person, because sometimes, many times, they'll fly planes with nobody on it to keep schedules going,
we're not selling people.
Because guess what? They're offset in their losses on this, partially from their information being sold. You're welcome. You got the benefits you wanted. You got your flight.
Yeah. Okay. So you're okay with going in, paying for a flight, which should cover if it's a good plane company like that should be it. They're selling flights. That's what their business is. But now they have a pseudo business that you seemingly just agree to. You don't mind that they're making more money on your name, which I think is like a really, really weird road to take as like a capitalist, as like an American, that you don't want any cut in on this, that you're perfectly okay with just a conglomerate company making asinine amounts of money on you with you doing literally, it's all the work. It's your work. You filled out the information.
Can we just like brainstorm all the bad things that could happen with this information? Like what bad things could happen with this info?
The slippery slope doesn't work with me. There's nothing bad. All that we're is we get the terrorists out of here. That's all they're worried about.
Ollie, let me ask you something, man. Do you realize that you're right about the information thing? You know that airlines are actually in a lot of cases bigger banks than most banks through their credit cards and their points systems.
Sure, yeah.
It's hilarious when you read about it and figure it out. The amount of revenue that they make off of you using their credit card or their point, or if you pay with points, the amount of money they make off of you is insane, crazy.
Which is fine because that's a fair agreement. That's a fair trade. What I don't think is a fair trade is I go and I buy a ticket, and then that should cover me. But no, you're not just making the money on me. You're then selling my information for X amount of like $1,000, thousands of dollars, whatever it may be.
Raise prices. So
no, what I want them to do is lower the prices, make the prices lower if you're, or give me a cut of the information, or give me a cut of the data sold.
Before you do that,
I'm being mine.
Before you do that, just let me get a super chat in quickly. Capitalism happening here. Alexander Wynn for another $10 says, forget all that. Look at the credit card scoring agencies, the credit scoring agencies. They are worse than anyone. So he's talking about. So the point he's trying to make is that. The credit scoring agencies, right? Like Experian, they have so much of your information. I mean, like a massive amount. Oh my God, so much of your information, right? And a lot of it's up for sale. And I imagine the government also buys it from them. So in terms of these databases, there are a lot of places where like a massive chunk of your life lives, right? A lot of it lives in Google. A lot of it lives of the credit scoring companies. A lot of it lives with these institutions that you end up interacting with a lot that store it. So yeah, it could be the airline industry. It could your car. It will exist within your car. I think we haven't actually grappled with that because something that was said before is that, well, if you don't want your data to be sold, right? Well, then you take a private car ride. Well, I'm saying that's already happened. In your private car, if you bought it within the last 10 years, that car is gathering your data and selling it right now. Yeah. So even if you in your private car, right? That unless you buy a 20-year-old car, you're using that, and you stick with that car forever, you will be your data will be used.
Again, even with the older cars, insurance companies are having you input these little chips in your car that read like your stop, your go, how fast, or whatever it may be. So it's like there's really no way of getting around it.
Well, hold on. This is interesting, really. There's two things that we got to talk about. One, Ollie, this is not how it works with flights and other things. First of all, I'm going to explain something. You said, I want lower prices, right? Well, you're not going to get lower prices. What you're going to get if you take away this ability for them to sell this is now they're not offsetting their losses somewhere else. So instead of being able to make money from selling your info as a portion of their revenue stream, they're now going to be restricted down to only one revenue stream.
They should fail. No, they should shut down as a business.
Hold on. Well, that's your opinion. That's cool. But guess what? So now
that's capitalism.
Hold on. Check this out. So let's just say they follow what you said, they have to shut down. Well, now other airlines are going to be able to raise their prices even more.
That's
because
fine.
Competitor. Hold on. Competitor goes. So hold on. Your end goal, you said, was to decrease prices. So okay.
Yeah, how?
Hold on.
Well, how?
Stop interrupting. Let me finish here. Okay, I'm trying to answer. You said you want to decrease prices. So you're going to shut down a company because they can't do this without telling you about it.
You're answering the wrong question.
If you let me finish, I'll be able to answer.
Let me finish.
So listen. So first you're going to sell. They're selling the info to offset costs. It's a revenue stream, right? So that allows them to be lower. You don't like that, so they have to raise prices. Nobody uses that airline. They go to business. Other airlines now, demand goes higher. There's one less competitor. Overall, now less people are able to use that service because it's priced out of the range. Same thing. Let's talk about the cars. Secondly, what y'all said is unequivocally not true. I just did a quick Google search. Yes, they are gathering your data. Within the contract for most major ones, according to ChatGPT, we can figure out like Electronic Frontier Foundation and Autoplan both confirmed this as well from the quick search I've done, is that you are within your rights, within the contract, within the last 10 years, if your car's got a computer, to opt out of data sharing. So yes, your car may collect that information, but you are able to opt out legally now, and you're not bound to send that info to them. Even and now, you're not even required to send that info to get manufacturer updates in most cases. So when we're talking about cars, guess what? Private cars still exist. You can do that, or you can always get a car that's older, pre-PAC, or disable the info. And when it comes to flights, you don't want cheaper flights, because what you're advocating for is either shutting the flights down or raising prices overall. So what do you want, Ollie? Do you want cheaper flights, or do you want people not to be able to fly at all and have that public service taken away that's being provided by a private company?
I could have saved you like 7 minutes because you didn't argue the point I was making. So what I was saying by cheaper flights wasn't that if I'm going to if I go to a store, right? If I go to Blockbuster and Blockbuster can't keep up with demand or whatever it may be, and Blockbuster shuts down because it's not making enough money, then Blockbuster deserves to shut down. It doesn't mean Blockbuster should sell my data on the back end, because that's no longer Blockbuster. Now it's a data collection firm. That's what it operates as. So that's like just like one argument real quick. But what I was saying is, if these flights are going to sell your data, if you're running a company, your company is an airline, you're meant to make money off of the airline tickets that you sell or the credit line that you have open. These are the ways that you make money. The way that you make money isn't by data collection and selling. You're saying they're making it on the back end to make up for losses. So they're not able to compete as an airline because they're not selling enough tickets, whatever it may be. I'm saying if they are going to collect our data and they are going to sell it, then I should see some of that, and I should have cheaper flights at the very minimum. To like Prime's point, he doesn't mind if Google's selling my data and information, because Google is free. It's a free service that we can use that they do need to recoup on. An airline, the only way they should be recouping and making money is by selling flights, because that is their business. If they cannot do that, if they cannot keep up their company by selling flights, they're not a good airline. They need to go bye-bye.
But Ali, this is the problem right here, right? You are agreeing to this with your terms of service. You don't have to fly anywhere. Say you get a job in Texas tomorrow, right? And I say you have to be here within 48 hours. Guess what? Can you jump on a Greyhound with a college ID? Absolutely. Can you jump on a Greyhound with just a state ID? Absolutely. I'm sorry, you don't get to dictate to the flights how they run their business. If you don't want your info shared, guess what? Tough titties, buy a Greyhound.
I don't mind my info being shared.
Uber. Oh, so you just
once again, I'm not arguing against them necessarily doing this, because I've accepted the fact that like this is just what happens with companies.
Instead, you don't want people to have access to cheaper flights, like Spirit, who does this. Like you're saying, because Spirit offsets some of their costs and are able to increased revenue from data collection, you don't want them to improve their services and offer more.
I should be able to pay all I'm saying is I should be able to pay for a $400 Delta flight and not get charged for internet when I'm on the flight. On top of having to be charged for internet, they're selling my data on the back end. So how much money are they actually making on my flight? You're just okay with getting ripped off. I'm not.
If I spend $400 on a Delta flight, and guess what? I'm sitting in fucking coach, and I'm not fucking getting. If I'm going across the country, and I'm not getting any Wi-Fi, I have to pay more to get the Wi-Fi.
I know.
Like you might get.
You should get free Wi-Fi.
You should, bro. This is what's crazy: is you're advocating for private businesses. They should just be obligated to provide you all of these services without any kind of offset.
Gibbs, can I ask you?
If the consumers are complaining about the product, and the way that these people are making money now is no longer off of the product, but off of selling data on the back end, that means they're bad companies. They're bad at capitalism. They're bad at running their shit. They don't deserve to exist. Sorry.
So no, what it is they've taken one product and they've turned it into 5 different ways to generate revenue. That's called capitalism at its best. I'm sorry.
Yeah, ripping off consumers.
I don't think this is necessarily wrong, but Gibbs, can I ask you, which money, like where's the government getting the money to pay these airlines for the data?
Where are they getting the money? They are doing. Listen, I know what you want to hear, and it's taxation is theft. That's cool, and I guess I agree with you. It's theft, and I agree that the NSA is bad and all this other stuff. I already granted that. Nice. But check this out. I said back in the day, hey, the government's getting too big. I don't like all this. I don't like them spying. But we're at this point now where they're spying galore. Guess what? I don't give 2 fucks if they're buying the data off the companies now because they're kicking these people out. And
3 ways they're making money off of us
No.
are taxes and buying the data, and I'm buying the ticket, and you're just like, yeah, fuck it, who cares?
Let me hold on.
Good point.
Let me paint the picture. Let me paint the picture for you real quick. Okay, let me paint the picture. So the government comes in and takes a bunch of your money in order to go build an airport, okay, that you may or may not want. The government just goes ahead and does it. Now that they've built this airport, they give all these different airlines the right to use it and make money. What the airlines then do is they do that. They charge you money for using the airport that you help pay for, and then they take the data and they sell it to the government. The government gets the money to pay them by stealing even more of your money. And your argument here is that this is private free enterprise?
Well, actually, this is your argument, because your argument, if I recall arguing previously, was that, and I quote Lactoid, the most moral thing a person can do is make money. So this company is
not even what I said. You got my quote wrong.
Ola is to take the situation as it lies. They've seen an opportunity and they're buying this. They're selling this data to the government, who's a willing customer for them. To them, the company.
No, that's my money. I'm not a willing customer. That's my money.
It's too late, Lactoid. Once you were taxed, you didn't sign a consent to that taxation either.
No, I didn't. I never signed a EULA agreement to that shit.
Did you, when you popped out of the womb, did you agree to get taxed?
I did not.
No, you didn't. But guess what? You're taxed anyway. So we're fucked. Here's the deal. Since we're already getting fucked, at least these companies had the audacity.
We should get fucked more.
Hold on. These companies had the common kindness to come and make you sign that contract to your face. I'm sorry that the government was the evil ones in this situation. I can't help that. You should be lauding these companies.
They're selling to the government.
Yeah, that's good for them.
So yeah, we just get fucked on all ends.
You should be praising these companies.
I am not praising these companies.
Wow.
I am not praising these companies.
So you hate free trade?
No, this is not free trade.
Consumers.
This is not capitalism. This is not free trade.
You agree you live in a society where we pay taxes and the government pays for shit, right?
Yes, I empirically understand that money is taken out of my paycheck every yes.
Okay, so I now, as much as say Prime objects to war. I don't know if he does. I think he does. Say Prime objects to war. They tax Prime, and now his money was directly used to fund.
He gets a say.
Oh, he gets a say. Cool. Now we've already voted people in office that have made this legal. And guess what? Now the best thing you could do is to buy stock in United.
No. Hold on. I'm not saying that this is. I'm not saying this is necessarily illegal. That's what I started with. I think that there's probably a lot of this is not illegal. Some of it might be, depending on the extent. That was my position. But politically, you're free to oppose this entirely. You can say, "Hey, this is my money that you're taking from me. I don't want to fund something. They're taking all my shit and selling it to the government using. I just don't want that rule. I don't want the government spending my money that way." And of course, we can vote for the government not wasting our money. That's the whole point of voting not Democrat.
Well, it's too bad. It's too late. Might as well get some stock and get some rewards.
Some miles, some points.
Hey, that's another way they do this. If you have frequent flyer miles, they sell those. This is another way they collect data. I looked into it. We're going. So if they're selling your frequent flyer miles to these credit card companies, are you a fan whenever you get the benefits from the system, or just only when it's convenient?
Selling frequent flyer miles?
So say I have 1,000 frequent flyer miles, and the company decides, hey, at the end of the year, we sell those frequent flyer miles to a credit card company like Chase, and I get rewards for it. Are you pro getting those rewards from Chase?
No, you got a direct benefit.
So only when
I want a benefit off someone making money on my name. Yes.
I see. You
said that.
Yo, dog, I'm about me. I'm about me.
Did you get a benefit when you got to fly? Did you get a benefit when you earned?
Yeah, I paid for. No, I paid for that benefit.
Okay, and you earned frequent flyer miles from that, right?
Not always. No, so I don't have a card. I don't have a credit card. I just use the debit card and I buy the flight.
So if you had a credit card that had frequent flyer miles on it, which maybe you should.
Yeah, I would benefit from having the credit card.
You would benefit from the system that they put in place. So
because I'm paying into the system by paying interest into the system, which is why they gave me the credit card.
It sounds like you're just bad with credit if you don't have a frequent flyer miles credit card.
No, wait, hold. But that doesn't mean anything. Even if I have frequent flyer miles, that means I'm paying into the system and I'm getting a benefit, which are the frequent flyer miles, because I agreed to be a part of the credit system. What I didn't agree to, which I guess I did agree to, but what I don't agree to is them on the back end selling my data and making money off me with me having no benefit. That's the issue.
Okay.
If I sell the amount of what kind of people come into my store and I sell cakes,
let me interject for a
Should I be able
minute
to do that?
I actually have an instance that was actually just covered by a friend of mine. So do you guys know what ADSB is? It doesn't matter. It's a locating system for airplanes, for small private well, actually all airplanes have to have them now. And basically it's reduced the air traffic control workload. Plus it allows you, if you have a receiver in your airplane, to see all of the traffic around you on an iPad or whatever. Or you can even do it on your phone. I have the app on my phone. I can see all the airplanes around me. The interesting thing about this is that there's a company, and I can't remember the name, it was like Vertical or something like that. And basically what they're doing is they're going to small municipal airports. And they're saying that, let us put these towers up and we will track the ADSB data of airplanes landing here, and assuming that they buy fuel or not, we'll send them we'll bill them for the landing fees. They have no actual way of knowing if they actually landed. They have no actual way of knowing if they took on fuel. Which, by the way, if you buy fuel, your landing fees are usually waived. They don't have any knowledge of this. And so the pilot gets a bill, and it's usually not small. And he's like, wait, I bought fuel at this airport. And they're selling this information back and forth. The entire deal was that the only reason pilots agreed to put ADSB in the planes was that the data would never be used to profit off of or to punish pilots. Because if you know everything an airplane is doing, if somebody decides to do something foolish like fly under a bridge, for example, not admitting anything, or just do something kind of nuts, you have a record of that. Like every single flight that takes off, once that ADSB hits, they have all the data, how fast it was going, how high it was, everything.
Okay.
Pilots only agreed to it, and by the way, it's like $7,000 to put that in your plane. By the way, so pilots were not happy about it. Now that data is somehow being sold, and it's actually being collected not by the FAA, who you would think would be the evil gremlin here, the government, but by private individuals who they call up Ollie and they say, hey, Ollie, I want you to put this receiver, this ADSB receiver up on your property here, and we'll pay you, $10 a month or whatever to just have this thing on your property. And they put those all over the country. There's a lot of them now. And this private company is gathering public information that's not supposed to be used for profit. Now that I can't get behind. That actually is what I was talking.
But that's different, Grid. Okay, so I own a B2B sales company.
I understand that it's different.
But I own it. Right. So let me give you an example. I own a B2B sales company. I collect data on all the companies that I do business with. Right, like what kinds of companies they are, what like the ethnicities of these people are, like where they are located, like all sorts of data.
What was the second one?
Now, like the ethnicities of these people, all sorts of stuff. Yeah, it's good information. Why? Because guess what? If I'm seeing a surge in Hispanic sales in this region, maybe we should hire more Hispanic salesmen in this area to push more product.
Don't admit to that.
All sorts of things. Nah, of course not. But you collect data from
weird, man.
Is that bad business practice? I feel like that's fair.
It's not. It's fair business practice, right? I'm collecting now.
It is fair.
You cannot specifically hire certain ethnicities of salespeople. That is a big no-no.
No, of course not. Of course
Makes
not.
no sense.
We would train people how to sell to certain minority groups better. That's what we would do. Anyway, so what I'm saying is we're going to go over here and we're going to collect this data. That way we can provide a better service to the community, right? Cool. Now collecting. Now Ali would go, that's fine. But we don't want you to make any more money, even though you're saving these people thousands of dollars. Now, this isn't going to hurt their businesses anymore. In fact, it's going to allow me to make more money and provide more services to more people because I can sell this data. So what Ali is really saying is he hates making stuff at a reasonable price point for the average consumer. Why do you hate the average consumer? And why are you basically putting a tariff?
Yeah, Ali, why do you hate it?
Wait. So these businesses, You're telling me that you're going to these businesses. You're like, hey, I'm going to provide a service for you, but on the back end, I'm also collecting a bunch of data. right?
Yeah, why shouldn't I be collecting that data from the information that I
You,
like?
you,
If I
you
own
once
this info,
again,
why shouldn't I
you
collect it?
can. Once again, you can. I have no issue with that. But you want these people to pay for your service,
Okay.
and then on top of that,
And
on
I'm
the
paying
back
people to
end,
collect
you
the
make
data.
money. You're just making money on their data and service, but you're telling them I'm providing you a cheaper service.
no,
But
hold on.
we know that you're not
That's not what's
providing a
happening.
cheaper service.
Hold on, that's not true at all. So what I'm saying is, okay, so let's take this scenario. I provide a service to all sorts of groups, right? All sorts of people everywhere, and I provide this service. I collect the data. Now I pay people to look at that data and give me analytics, and then I act on that data, which expands my business and allows me to give better rates to people.
That's a different
Hold on.
scenario.
Okay, that's fine. Now, what I've done with that, now I take that data that I have spent money on to collect and
Yes.
create a department, and I turn and sell that data, which now makes me more money, and I can now use that money to reinvest in my business in a litany of different ways. You're saying that's now somehow bad because I can now pay for more people to have jobs. I can now spread my business to other people. I can now offer better prices to other consumers. That's what you're saying is bad now,
So
huh?
me, Ali, your friend on the panel, no, make your money, right? Me, if I'm looking at it as a societal like structure, should businesses be doing that? Is this a good practice
So
that I
they
think
shouldn't be allowed
businesses
to
should be
collect
doing
money.
it for a consumer, for capitalism, for consumers? Once again, all this does is fuck over the consumer. If you have no consumers, you don't have anyone to sell shit to. We're getting to a point.
But that's the problem. That's the problem there. Is that like it's less that you won't have any consumers. The point is that these entire industries are doing the same practice, so the consumers have no choice. So they'll still have consumers, but they'll still lack the choice as to what to do with their data. So I was looking into refamiliarizing myself with these car privacy notices, right? And so I have three different sources here. They're all talking about one thing though: the Mozilla privacy report. Mozilla, the one that makes Firefox a browser. They also have this division that like makes like this general consumer privacy report on all kinds of different industries, right? Cars included. Cars, they have declared have the worst privacy policies ever, right? Here's one, right? From Nissan. So this is from an Axios article, but again, they're all talking about the same reports. I'm going to bounce around, right? In this Axios report, it says the Nissan privacy notice says the company can share, quote, sensitive personal information, including driver license number, national or state identification number, citizenship status, immigration status, race, national origin, religious or philosophical beliefs, sexual orientation, sexual activity, precise geolocation, health diagnosis data, and genetic information. It's not clear that Nissan has information on the driver's genetics or sexual activity, but the notice is alarming all the same. Especially since five other companies also say they can collect genetic information or characteristics. But there is, so you might think some of that is impossible for them to collect, some of it isn't, right? For instance, like where it talks about your religious and philosophical beliefs. Well, if you go to a mosque, right, if it knows from your GPS system that you go to a mosque on a regular basis, guess what? I guess you're Muslim, right? If you go to a political rally, right, if they can locate you going to like rallies over any politics, like let's say a fucking Lactroid wants to go to a libertarian fucking rally to, against taxes or whatever. Well, they know what Lactroid believes in, right? You can get a lot of these patterns from this. Your sexual activity, yeah, they know who you're fucking, right? They know whose house you're going to. They might, if you have a phone connected to your console, to your to your car, right? You do like a Wi-Fi or whatever through it, right? You Bluetooth through it. They have the numbers that you're contacting, right? And then you go to their house at this time. Yeah, they know who you're fucking. In another article, right? So this is from Mozilla. This is also on Nissan. Nissan says so. Nissan gathers all that information, right? And they say we'll share this information to build a marketing profile that covers your, quote, psychological trends, predispositions, behavior, attitudes, intelligence, abilities, and aptitudes. These are the things that they're selling. You think they can't put that together? Yeah, they can actually. right? They know your weight, like in terms of your health status. They know your weight. They know if your phone is connected. They know how often you go to the hospital, right? Are you sickly? Why do you go to the hospital? They might be able to figure it out from your phone records that go through your car. And then this is from the actual report. So this is the last thing I'll read, right? This is a report from the Mozilla Foundation. I'm reading straight from the site. The section says consent is an illusion, right? So our friend Gibbs brought up consent previously. Many people have lifestyles that require driving. So unlike a smart faucet or voice assistants, you don't have the same freedom to opt out of the whole thing and not drive a car. What we've talked before about the murky ways that companies can manipulate your consent, and car companies are no exception. Often they ignore your consent. Sometimes they assume it. Car companies do that by assuming that you have read and agreed to their policies before you step foot in their cars. Subaru's privacy policy says that even passengers, not the driver, passengers, even passengers of a car that use connected services have quote unquote consented to allow them to use and maybe even sell their private information just by being inside. So, and it continues on. So when car companies say that they have your consent or won't do something without your consent, it often doesn't mean what it should. Like when Tesla says that, sure, you can opt out of data collection, but it might break your car. And then, so this is the last thing I'll read. This is a notice from Tesla, right? This is what it says. However, if you no longer wish for us to collect data or any other data from your Tesla vehicle, please contact us to deactivate connectivity. Right? That's an opt out or option that our friend Gibbs brought up. Okay, let's examine that. Please note certain advanced features such as over-the-air updates, remote services, and interactivity with mobile applications and in-car features such as location search, internet radio, voice commands, and web browser functionality rely on such connectivity. If you choose to opt out of vehicle data collection, with the exception of in-car data sharing preferences, because apparently that's a separate thing, we will not be able to know or notify you of issues applicable to vehicle in real time. This may result in your vehicle suffering from reduced functionality, serious damage, or inoperability. So that's the end of the statement. So what they're saying, right? What they're saying is that this car, with all these features that you bought it for, right? Because part of it, you're not buying it just for the car, right? You buy it for all these other features. You have to agree to sharing that data or that other things like connecting your phone or the GPS or all these other things that are included. You don't get to do all that, right? So you pay the same price. You pay the same price for reduced functionality, and they're threatening you. They're threatening you that last sentence, saying that, oh well, if you don't have this turned on, well, guess what? You might the car might break in some unfortunate ways. But we don't know. We can't be sure, right? What services might be necessary and functional without this data service turned on? It's not really our responsibility at that point once you do that. And remember what I said before: passengers, not the driver. Last thing, passengers all of a sudden consent. So you get into your friend's car that you've never bought that car. You didn't exchange any money. You didn't sign any forms. You also consent by connecting your devices. So don't bullshit me about that, about choice. It doesn't exist here. It doesn't exist. This is the amount of data they're selling to you. They're selling from you, right? And even out can have disastrous consequences on using the car that you paid tens of thousands of dollars for. Done.
So I think that's interesting in and of itself, but your phone's way worse. Your phone, the microphone never shuts off. I don't know if you guys realize that.
Grid, we agree. Grid, we're not fighting you on that. Grid, like also, phones are bad too, right? Like these are. I'm just like bringing this up because people.
Right.
I think that most people, and some people don't think about this at all, but I think a lot of people consider like the privacy implications of their phone, right? And that's kind of priced in. Now, I'm not saying I agree to them being able to do anything they want for our data, but it's kind of priced in. But I don't think people price in how much cars are collecting, right? And what it means to even try to opt out of that, because you actually do lose a lot when you opt out, if you can opt out. because they make it difficult to do that in the first place. There's a whole bunch of choices they make, but we agree on the phone thing.
No, I just it's just interesting. It's the cars are bad. Obviously, I mean, me personally, I have a 5-year rule anyway, so I don't buy anything newer than 5 years old.
It
But
doesn't matter.
you know,
It's
like
still they're still counting your
and
data.
in
Yeah.
general, I don't connect anything to anything. Like my Jaguar actually wants to update so bad, and I just it never connects to the internet. I just never let it connect to the internet. So
Corey?
but it really wants to update. Like it tells me like every third or fourth trip
But
I'm
it's
in
still
the car.
collecting that information. And you know what? Police can collect that information later on. If you aren't able to reset your car data, all that information is collecting, it's there. So if the police ever get a warrant, or maybe even not get a warrant, because that's a thing in itself, but they can go into your computer, just like they can go into your phone, they can go into your car and collect all that data. So you need to be wiping that as well. But Corey.
So I guess maybe to clarify or understand Gibbs's position better. So, because based off of how you engaged with Lactoid earlier, it seems like, at least from what I can gather, you don't mind companies purchasing data. So I'm curious, like, you would potentially be okay, depending on the context of like, if the government just wants to purchase all your Facebook data and all your Discord messages.
Gun data, all your gun data.
They already do that. Like, I mean, that's the thing. Like, if you remember,
but again, that doesn't answer my question. Are you okay with that? Like, this is just the grid option of they already do that. That's the law or whatever.
Well, no, I mean, I don't really know if you
want?
remember what I said in the opening, which was basically, yeah, if I had been old enough to fight and yell and scream and gnash the teeth about fucking the Patriot Act, I would have screamed and gnashed the teeth about the Patriot Act. But, seeing how I was in 5th grade when 9/11 happened, not so much. I couldn't do that. But since we're here in this world now, yeah, I understand. I'm not exactly happy with it. As like a small government conservative, I don't like the idea that we don't have any privacy. However, on the flip side, yeah, I'm going to say, yeah, I am okay with it because at a capitalist level, the companies should have the right to sell it to whoever they want. Yeah, I don't like that they're taking my tax dollars and they're spending it. Sure, that's shitty, but I don't like a lot of the shit. I don't like it when they give money to the welfare queens. I don't like the money when they spend it on trans surgeries for illegal aliens either. But hey, guess what? My money's spent on stupid shit by the government all the time. USAID, total waste of money. I bitch
so
about
it's all
that.
equal
No one cares. So again, in my opinion, right here, at least now they're using this shit that I don't like for something I do like. So you know what? Hell yeah. And good for those companies. In fact, we should applaud them because those companies found out a way to take their already limited resources and double up. You know what? I wish more Americans were as creative as these CEOs and board members that came up with this idea in the first place, or engineer or software engineer, whoever it was. Good for them.
Okay, so then,
according to Lactoid, most moral people on earth.
Okay, so I'm sure you were quoting Lactoid directly. I'm sure no mistakes were made there.
No mistakes.
But so if I understand you correctly, if or when we get to the place that, let's say your genetic information is held by a company, you have no problem with the government just purchasing that data directly.
Guess what? I got some crazy news for you. Are you ready for this? If you've ever done 23andMe, they
I
have
know
solved crimes because
that's what I'm saying. If or
grandma's
when,
nephew, grandma's grandnephew or whatever, fucking turned their shit in, and they figured out grandma killed somebody.
I know
that's happened.
That's
you know
why
what? Cool,
I
cool
never did it. I never did it.
Listen, I ain't killed nobody. So
I never did
I'm not
it. I'm
worried
no
about
snitch, so I don't.
Yeah,
want,
I mean,
I'm
is your
good
argument?
on
Wait.
I'm adopted.
I ain't no snitch. I don't want none of my
So
family
I wanted
in
to,
trouble.
I had a closed adoption, so I wanted to know the background. But that's how I
Is
found
your
out
argument
my real parents.
is your argument that since you're whatever a good citizen, you have nothing to hide, so therefore
No, my
no
argument
privacy
is that I wanted to find out who my real parents was because I was the son of a legal child, and we used 23andMe to do that. So guess what? If they
Wait,
had, that's how I found out all this good stuff. Yeah, you
wait,
didn't
wait.
know. Yeah,
Son of
I'm
an illegal, and then you were adopted?
Yes.
DEI American?
DEI American, that's what I'm saying. With DEI, yeah.
Um,
But to be fair, my real father's also like a 3-time convicted felon apparently, so he shouldn't have been
Double
here in the first
DEI American.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Triple.
And my adopted family is broke as shit. So I basically lived the life that all y'all are bitching about. There's no excuse for
virtue signaling left and right, Gibbs.
This is the woke right.
I mean, I could be virtue signaling. I could be sitting here going, "Oh my God, I have life so hard. I'm an adopted a child of an illegal alien. Lord, can I get some government money? Can I apply to college? I can apply to college back in the day and get scholarships.
Sorry. I don't care about your libertarian rant. Hold on, I just want to read these two super chats.
I mean, I don't care about
Alexander Wynn. Simple fix, a $10 super chat. Simple fix, just start selling your own data before the companies do. Maybe create an add-on service that pays consumers to gather and sell their data directly and eke out others. If only you would only unfortunately I hear what you're saying, but that even wouldn't be a fix, right? Because this data is only worth anything in bulk. Right. So my data, unless I'm somebody special, and I'm not, right? I'm not like an important person. I'm not like the politician.
Just make an app,
unless I'm someone, hopefully in the future. Unless I'm someone special, right? My data isn't important. However, the data, other people who fit my profile, right? Whatever profile they're looking for in that particular moment, right? Maybe black males of a certain age, right? Like that data in aggregate, that's worth something. Right, so no one cares about like what I've done, and I haven't done anything interesting. But the aggregate of that data is the thing that matters.
Wait, Brian,
and then hold on, another super chat. Alexander Wynn, $5 says, regarding cars, don't forget they record video and audio from inside and issue and outside of the car, along with the scan RFID tags. What RFID tags? I'm not sure which
are RFID.
Yeah, your keys.
Key card for anything. If you have any kind of RFID device.
Teslas are debit cards now. Like you go, you tap a debit card and it works.
Yeah.
Brian, I got a question though. You brought this up just now. If you like, say you made an app, right? Like we just said, and it collected all the aggregate data for like all the cheapest flights, and then you made part of the app so that you could book the flight through that app. And part of that is in your contract. Oh, well, I've collected your data. Now I can sell it in order to fund my ability to make this app better, or whatever, or invest in it. Like you basically just described what these companies are doing.
No. What's the benefit? Why would I use that app? What would be the purpose of me using the app?
It's the best at finding the cheapest flights.
I didn't describe what those companies are sorry. I didn't describe what the companies are doing because what I was talking about is if consumers were selling their data. Consumers aren't selling their data. They're giving over their data to use services, right? And that's attached as a rider onto that. Where they're saying they're selling this. But like if you want to, if it's important for you to use these services, if it's important to use your iPhone and they're saying that they're going to use your certain data, your data in a certain way, right? And Android also says that, and those are only two choices. Well, then, if you're going to interact with the modern economy with a smartphone like everyone else does, well, then I guess you got to share that data. And we shouldn't be asking that of people. I want to ask our friend Chai, right? Chai, like, so what exactly are you comfortable with, right? Because like this has come up specifically for women, right? I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but in recent years there's been like a proliferation of like a menstrual cycle like tracking apps, right? That's the thing that you'll find like on the Android store. They've been selling that data too. And if you live in a red state where abortion might be illegal, well, they've been giving that over to the cops. And if you like, not you in particular, but I'm saying any woman, if they find evidence that she was pregnant, but then that pregnancy stopped and her like menstrual cycle started up again.
Oh, I see where you're going with this. Yes.
Yeah. So like, what are you comfortable with in these situations? Yeah.
I feel like you have to read the fine print. Yeah, I get that. But at the same time, you shouldn't be trying to manipulate somebody's state of free will. And your morality isn't exactly always what's going to be right for the people that are upset about that.
Sorry, what? I'm a little confused. What do you
like? So the morality of people that would be upset about that, the government using period tracking apps to see if somebody's pregnant, maybe got an abortion, or who knows, right? Like That would be their morality. That's not everyone's morality.
Do you think that it's
I don't think
fair?
that should be like a public thing. I also don't know what Trump necessarily needs with these airline logs. I don't really understand what he needs that for. I think there should always be a reason why. I don't think you should have to have open access to everything. I think that's just silly in any case. You should always have to have a means of checking.
So by means of checking, I guess you mean like a warrant, at the very least,
Or like
to
a
get the
yeah, like a subpoena or something like that to just, make sure you are who you're supposed to be. So there's no maluse.
So okay, so there's two different things. One, there's the misuse of it once, because there's the government using it for a certain action, right? And which is a legitimate purpose, but it's like whether we want the government to use that in the first place. And then as a separate issue of whether the government gets the data and then misuses the data outside of legitimate actions. So those are two separate things. We can discuss them separately. But like, I guess I'm saying that like, does it? Mm, mm, if it's the case that all apps, right? And we can talk about like running apps. Like running apps sell your data. Like if you got like those watches that keep track of your heartbeat and stuff like that, they know a lot about your health, right? So like if it's the case that all of them on the market are doing it, and handing it over to the government, do you think, well, simply don't use those things? Do you think that's a good response? That's what our friend Gibbs has been saying. Simply don't use it.
No, just simply don't use it. Well, what's the alternative? Like, obviously I like my iPhone, but am I going to go out and get like a flip phone?
I mean, you could. That's what I
You
mean.
could.
I
That's
mean,
what that's
again,
what
and
that's
that
the
will
argument.
exist.
Build
Am
your
I
own phone.
really
I'm sure the
supposed
patents
to
are
go
up
get a
on.
flip phone? Like, are you serious, Gibbs? A
Build your own
flip
phone.
No, I
phone?
mean,
Yeah.
honestly, okay, yeah, sure. Okay, let's take that argument. The phone. Like, okay, like you're sitting here saying that we couldn't do that. How come the mob, for example, is able to use burners on a regular basis? To this day, I could go down to the store right now and buy a track phone and do everything my phone does except surf the web, right?
But is
And
that their main phone?
but I mean, hold on though. If I use a phone to call, say I buy a track phone, I can do everything but surf the web, and I can live my day-to-day life using that phone. Tell me, how is your life affected if I give that phone number out to call or get text from? And suddenly I just can't use it to Google search.
Wait,
I
yours?
But yeah, I mean, I'm just saying, I lived
I mean,
before we had smartphones. I had a Razor that didn't have internet,
yeah.
and then it got internet by the Razor too. I had a track phone. It was green screen with snake on it.
I
I
think
had a
all of
BlackBerry.
us
Okay,
went through the flip
so
phone
you
era.
remember that? So were you able to live without a smartphone?
Yeah, because everyone else was also
Oh,
living
so
without a
you were all
smartphone.
okay. So are you saying right now I couldn't go the rest of my life using track
You
phone?
could. Your life would be
Oh,
like a bit
I
more
could.
difficult. Yeah.
Would it be? Oh, a bit more difficult. So
Significantly more
you're saying
difficult.
that
Significantly,
for
yeah.
you're saying
Well,
oh
I didn't want
significant.
to say
Hold on.
significant, so he
So
doesn't
you're
hang on. And
oh yeah, that's fine. So you're saying because I want to use because you want to have some small insignificant or significant little ability to search Google on your phone or send
you call it
emails. Yeah.
insignificant, but
Oh
like
yeah.
the
But
world
hold on.
relies on their
Oh, no, wait.
phones. So
Yeah,
I
but
mean,
hold on,
like,
hold on.
it's
Are you
not
saying?
insignificant.
Hold
Checking
on.
your
The world
emails
doesn't
is a
rely on
requirement
your
for your
phone.
job most of the time.
Okay, cool, sure, maybe if I live here in America, right? Cool, I guess so, right?
Well,
But
that's what we're talking about.
cool, I live in
Are you
America. If
expecting me
I
to move to
work,
Somalia?
hold
What
on,
do you? What
hold
do
on,
you?
hold on. If I live in America
Don't
and
move
work
to
a
Somalia.
white collar job, if I'm working like I don't
Move to
know,
Penguin Island.
hold on, if I'm working in Midland, Texas, at the oil field, out in the middle of some area where they don't have cell phone service, is it gonna like affect me that I can't look at my cell phone for the next
I'm
8
not an
hours?
oil dock worker.
Oh,
No,
how many?
that individual example, no.
Hold on, Lactoid. Are there thousands and thousands of oil workers that working in remote
We
places in the
have
United States?
hundreds of millions of
To answer the
people.
Okay, okay,
question, to answer the question,
okay,
sure, probably.
sure, okay, cool. Let's pick another industry. How about I don't know.
He's gonna go industry by industry.
Let's
Yeah,
go with
and then
private.
you're gonna get to lawyers and realize, oh shit, everybody
Sure, no,
there
hold
needs
on,
access to
hold
their
on.
emails and their phone.
Let's go to
Well, even
how about ice
farmers have
fishermen?
technology that they're using. Like, what are we
An ice
talking
Hold
about
fisher.
on,
here?
hold on. How about ice fishermen in Alaska? Are they
Ice
using?
fishermen,
Are they?
ice
Yeah,
Are they?
fishermen.
Are they?
they are using
That's
their
not an
phones. Yes.
industry. No, ice
But they're not
fishing is a
using their phone.
hobby.
They are using their phones 100%.
There's not ice fishing trawlers. That's not a thing.
Fishermen, then crab fishermen from the
crab
greatest catch.
fishermen.
Oh, yeah,
Okay,
cool.
yeah,
So
I'm
we
not a
have,
crab
we
fisherman.
okay,
yeah.
cool. Let's use Discovery Channel. When Discovery
Why
Channel
not?
is out there filming for Shark Week or the greatest catch, and they don't have signal, are they able to do their production jobs out on location? How about National Geographic? All these major companies have to deal with these things on a regular basis. But hey, you, the person, this is the whole argument from the left. Prime has made this argument on multiple panels. Hold on, and this is crazy, Lactoid, that you're making this
I don't
argument.
even think Prime's on the left anymore.
Hold on. I didn't know that Lactoid had turned into
Lactoid's a socialist, though.
a leftist. Yeah, well, I guess he is a socialist because what he's arguing for right now is welfare, right? They're sitting here going, hey, these guys should have some level of happiness. That is the argument Prime has made.
You just want welfare for corporations, bro.
I've said food stamps should only pay for rice and beans. And they in Prime with a straight face has told me, and Prime with a straight face has said, no, they should be able to buy whatever because they need some enjoyment and the government should pay for that. Well, guess what? You're getting some enjoyment by being able to use Google on your phone, and you're paying for that with the tax to these companies called your information. You're welcome. Suddenly you're bad. It's bad.
Comrade Lactoid.
Yeah, no.
But it's good when the government
sir,
does it.
may I
Why
please
do you
have
pro-
email so I can do my job? Yes, the luxury of all fucking luxuries. Yes.
Listen, hold on. Like when you give a deposition and they say no cell phones in this room, are you hindered from not being able to check your phone every 10 seconds while you interview somebody under record? Or when you're in a courtroom and you're giving a speech in front of the jury, can you have your cell phone out in front of you, checking your email as you speak to the jury?
No, so no, but when,
So
but
the
on your
situation,
on your table, you do have your laptop up, and you can literally all your notes there.
So I could use my laptop to fulfill all the functions of this cell phone. So you're admitting I don't even need a phone in this time period. I could just use a laptop.
Yeah, you're right. You're specifically in this context, you might not need a phone. Sure.
So even lawyers don't need phones.
Hold on. Does a fisherman, for literally every single moment of their life, does a fisherman need a fishing rod?
Does the firm you work at have legal assistants?
There are, yeah, sure.
Okay, so if you were like, hey, bitch boy number 2, can you go and check my emails for me? And they were like, sure, Mr. Lactoid, I would love to check your emails for you. And they check your emails and they bring you back a written report. Would you be able to do that?
Like a paralegal, I guess.
Paralegals to step up.
Okay, hold on. What if, like, my legal assistant needs to email me something and I'm away from my desk?
Oh, I guess they're gonna have to wait till you get back to your desk.
What if there's no time?
It's urgent.
Pen and paper, baby.
It's urgent.
Pen and paper.
Oh man, I guess that you're gonna have to do with what everybody else does and pull out that laptop and open it up and respond.
Well, no. That's not what everyone else does. Is what everyone else does is they pull out their phone.
Oh, well, I guess once again, no, you wouldn't be able to do that because
I do one of these.
Lactoid, what you're saying is that you basically want welfare from these companies.
That's not what I'm saying.
You're anti-capitalism, and you now believe in taxes. That's what you now believe.
Lactoid, a member of the Politburo, right?
No,
a member of the
true taxation.
Started with the Russia, now we're here.
If the government can tax me, these companies can tax my information. Good for them.
I gotta ask Lactoid.
Lactoid and Haas are basically the same person.
Lactoid
can see him, bro.
Lactoid keeps Miles' handbook right next to his heart.
Yeah. I mean, what's crazy is I unironically have
Jackson Hinkle, Lactoid, the same person.
Hammer Sickle Lactoid is what we all call it. The Hammer Sickle
Scott would be so proud of all of you. Okay.
Well, Lactoid is more like Visora. He's a libertarian communist. That's more like it.
Yeah. So wow.
Lactoid,
okay.
I gotta ask, man.
Go ahead.
I don't know. I don't know if you do criminal law, but are you aware of any cases where cell phone data has led or contributed to the conviction of someone?
For sure.
Okay. So it's useful then? Useful to have that information?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Actually, it can be. I think that's a source of tension in terms of like Apple and privacy and all that stuff.
Has it been used to clear somebody of suspicion of a crime because they couldn't possibly have been there because they were on the phone getting yelled at by their wife 3 blocks away?
I'm sure it has. I can't think of that specific example ever coming up in anything.
So it's one of those like good evil things, right? Like it's good, but it's evil.
Well, hold on. This is true. This is what you're describing. This is true for all kinds of privacy violations, right? If I had a camera, in Orwell's America, if I had a camera on like every like corner and everybody in every bathroom and every bedroom, I'm going to catch way more crime.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get me wrong.
No more child abductions
most of the time, so that phone is nowhere near me. Like I don't like having a phone. I don't like being chained to a phone. I don't like any of that. I think that's the weakest thing that most modern Americans do in their daily lives is they're tethered to that phone.
I agree with
like it's their umbilical cord to the
but
world.
But that doesn't matter. Hold on. But of course that doesn't matter for this conversation, right? Like the question isn't about overusing these technologies, right? Like flying too much. Like we're not concerned about that part.
Right, but you have that with you all the time, so it's always gathering that data. It's always on you.
Yeah, hold on.
You effectively have no privacy.
Hold on. That's not the thing that we're fighting over, right? Like we're saying that there are services, products and services that to function in a modern economy without going off the grid, like Gibbs could never actually do. We know that, right? Rather than
either, just to be clear.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could go. I can go to my. I don't have.
If I wasn't married, I'd be living.
I don't have cell phone service on half my ranch, and yet I'm able to send emails from the house when I go over there.
Like, yeah, and your ISP also sells data too. Like, okay,
cool.
Great.
Well, that's why we use a satellite fucking system. It's called and then we have a VPN. Hold on, with VPN. Hold on, which is crazy.
Oh yeah, and now we have to have a VPN.
Hold on, with the VPN. Hold on, all these things are
for a VPN.
But you're arguing these things like people can't take these steps, and they're still not have
access to the same thing. Friend, are you saying that's not what I'm arguing? Not that people can't take steps. I'm arguing the opposite. Hold on, calm down, breathe. Hold on, calm down, breathe. I'm arguing the opposite of what you're saying. I understand. Really? Because you're too stupid to understand.
Listen, I'm not listen. You keep trying to pigeonhole me as too stupid. Whatever. Once again, hold on.
Because you're not listening. No. Because you keep saying this dumb shit. I wish you said the opposite of what you say, and then you're like, "Are you saying B?" I'm saying no. I said A. Hold on. Let me finish and let me say A, and then you can react to A and not to B, which I didn't say. Okay. I'm saying yes. You can do all those other things. You can get off the grid. That's an option. However, right, since most people want to interact with a modern economy, right, they have ambitions beyond living in the fucking woods, right? They have ambitions beyond like moving to fucking Somalia, right? And being away from all these things, right? Because they want to interact with the American society, they should have the freedom to do so while having a level of control of their own data, right? And by that I mean specifically that like when you interact with a service, you should have granular choices as to what data they can and can't use. If it's a paid service, if it's not a paid service, then my opinion changes. If it's not a paid service, well, then they got to make their money. And I think selling your data is completely optional. There's even a search engine, right? We were talking about Google previously. There's a search engine apparently with a paid subscription, so that they don't sell.
Do you remember a few years ago in New York the issue with intranets? Do you remember this?
So now I now need you to respond to me saying, of course, you can do the opt out, but you should be able to use these critical services, like drive a car, like fly in a plane, like use your phone, like do a million other things without worrying that your personal data will be used, especially not by the government that has state power, the power to arrest. That's a big issue for me.
You remember like 8 years ago in New York? Go ahead.
Prime, you say that, but I mean, and again, I'm from the South, so maybe that's a determining factor. I know people who still own carbureted vehicles that doesn't have a single it has nothing electric in it except the radio. Like you're not tracking that thing for shit. I know people. My mom actually uses a flip phone because she doesn't want data. She doesn't. Literally a. She
does
phone.
already.
This is like you say that. Well, people, whatever, but
flip phones collect data, or they can be used as a data source.
Also, Grit, I don't want to be that guy, but like how old are the people that you're referring to and where you live?
It doesn't need a data plan to do that, right? Like it has your location, checks in with the tower everywhere it goes, right? It has who you called, It
okay, Prime, but are they tracking my carrier pigeon? I don't think they're tracking.
They
my
might not be
pigeon.
tracking your carrier pigeon. They might. It might be possible if
but there are people out there that just don't do that
stuff. To turn on the mic, right? If they could have a contract, right? According to Gibbs, right? This would be fine. They could have a contract in that cell phone that says, "Hey, we're also allowed to turn on your mic every so often to collect some data." Right, to send advertisers. They could also do that as well. All those are within the possibility of a flip phone.
Well, here's what's crazy, Prime, that you brought this up, right? So I was trying to bring this up before Grid went, right? But do you remember about 3-4 years ago, there was a big controversy about guerrilla internet, and specifically in New York City? Okay, well, it's a big thing. It came to it. It's called the big one now is I think it's what is it, NYC Mesh is the one that's like basically community
mesh
owned.
network. Okay.
Yeah, basically, and so they made their own connections to the internet. They're able to get on there, and like NYC has been fighting them for years. They don't like it, and like the big companies don't like it either. And these people do it. Now, what this is interesting is because this charge is being led by which party? The Dems. So what you're sitting here and saying is, oh, well, people can't just sit here and make their own internet. Wherever it's pretty clear, you can attach and create your own, like these internet people, these internet guerrilla internet people.
You didn't make your own internet.
Hold on. Yeah, actually, hold on, Sociologic. Hold on. The people that have made these Sociologic went down to basically Best Buy.
He never said you can't make your own internet.
Hold on. Stop.
No.
Basically, hold on. They've made their own access. They've made their own intranets that connect to the internet, and they're able to expand.
Making the internet. That's not making the internet.
Hold on. It is.
No, it's not. You don't understand anything.
Oh, I do absolutely understand. This is okay. I got to say something. I object vehemently to this idea that like I'm somehow stupid or like somehow don't understand these concepts. Whenever I don't sit here and insult your intelligence, when it's pretty clear to me that you don't understand basic economics.
Sure. Let's go back. Hold on. How do they make their own internet?
Explain that. Minutes. I will explain that when I get to that. But here's the thing: is I've sat here and listened to you talk about economics on many panels when it's clear to me you don't understand economics. You're now repeating the same talking points for trickle-down economics in regards to tariffs that Republicans and Libertarians have spoke for decades on this regard. And now, when earlier, when I brought up using this stuff on my ranch on how to connect to the internet, how there are ways around them collecting my data using VPNs, using satellite internet, or in this case, building the tech to make mesh internet, guerrilla internet, attacking from different ways.
That's not making the internet.
Oh, cool. It's not making the internet. It's cool. I understand. It's not making the internet prime.
Oh, now you understand that. Hold on. You say you do understand these things, but then I tell you before that's not making the internet, and then you push back against me.
This is weak debate. This is bad thing back there.
You push back against me. You push back. He's frozen. Anyone else?
What I'm saying is they have made an ability to get to the internet, which is a worldwide node. Everybody's able to talk.
Okay,
cool. Hold on, let me finish. Hold on. So they are able to buy this tech, going down to Best Buy on normal people's salary and build this themselves. If you want to do it, you can. And you don't have to sit here and pay these other companies. You are paying for convenience. Hold on. Oh my God. Yeah, it is. Oh my God. It's infuriating when you're sitting. It is stupid because I think it's really stupid when you're going to sit here and go, oh, hey, these people can't do this. And I could quickly Google, how to
I
make
didn't say that. I said the opposite. Hold on.
I can make my own
the opposite. What did I say? I said you can get past these things.
Hold on, Prime. Once again, you're not letting me finish. And you're talking about
because you keep saying stupid things.
Hold on, Prime. You keep saying stupid things all the time, and I don't say you're
sure. Go ahead. Finish saying your dumb fuck shit. Your dumb fuck shit. Go ahead. Keep going.
Hold on, Prime. Okay, listen. This is why you had to mute me because I was right. You were wrong. But here's the same thing.
Sure, whatever.
Here's the same thing. It's sure whatever. You can keep putting it as stupid when it's not. If I'm able to buy the tech to bypass the internet company, the only thing you're paying for is one, the knowledge how to do it, and two, the ease of access and the connectivity. So what you're sitting here saying is, I don't like the fact that they provided a service, and with that service, they're collecting the information and reselling it whenever you're too lazy or you're too stupid to go do it yourself. And so here's the crazy thing, Prime. When I can point to this for cell phones, when I can point to this for planes, when I can point to this for the guerrilla internet, It's crazy that you can call it stupid when at every level I can point to people being able to build these things on their own. Were the Wright brothers able to make their own airplane? Absolutely. If I have the money, I could build a 747 from scratch, buying the fucking tools from Boeing. It's that simple. If I have the time and the money or the know-how, but you're sitting here going, I deserve these things, and these companies don't deserve to be able to profit off the services they're providing. That's just anti-American capitalism. And you only are totally okay with it when the government does it. So you're really only bitching because private companies are able to make money, and you're sitting here totally okay when Uncle Sam comes over and spreads your ass cheeks and fucks you. It's totally fine.
Okay, now my turn.
Sure, go ahead.
You said a lot of dumb fuck shit, and I'm going to call you out. You say dumb fuck shit. I'll say a lot of you say a lot of dumb fuck shit. Okay, so first of all, the thing that I reacted to, the thing that sets you off, is that when you said they made their own internet, they did not make their own internet. Now you then you change your then you change right after I push back on you. 5 minutes of me pushing back at you, telling you that you're an idiot for saying that, right? Then you're saying, oh, what I actually meant is that they created their own internet access. They created their own internet access, which is a completely different thing from recreating the internet. Yeah, it's a whole different fucking thing. And so, that's not what you said. That's not what you said. That's not. No, it's not. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. No, you didn't.
I mean, I speak basic English.
I know how. I know people just like you who try it all the time, and it's not going to work with me, right?
I mean,
you say dumb fuck shit. People correct you, and then you're like, I didn't finish though. If I had said the other half of my dumb fuck thing, it would have been. No, they didn't. I specifically said I did. I specifically said, hey, they didn't make their own internet. You replied saying they did make their own internet. You doubled down on it later on, and then you went again. Oh no, actually, it's like make their own internet. So moving on. Moving on from that, because you were wrong, and then you had to move the goalpost again, right? But that's okay. That's what.
I did say internet.
No, you didn't say.
If I go back in the book and I click by saying internet, then you're lying. You're absolutely being bad faith and lying. I said they create their own internet and connect to the internet.
I'm moving.
I do that, and
I'm moving past it. I'm moving past it. I said make own internet, and you said yes, they did make their own
internet, and they attach to the internet.
I
know you just don't want to listen to the words I'm saying and just trying to get a dunk, but I'm sorry. I said intranet, and I said make the way to attach.
You can pretend you said that. That's fine.
Okay, if I find a clip, I want a public apology.
You do that. Okay, so anyway,
got it.
When what's the other thing you said? You said so many dumb fuck shit, and I was like, oh yeah, that's right. You talk about hey, I can point to all these things where people can find ways around. But when I started the conversation, like literally 10 minutes ago, when I was responding to you, I said specifically, and I tripled down on it, I know people can get around these things. You said then, hey, you're saying that people can't get around these things. And then I stopped you. I said, no, you're saying I said B. I said A, that people can get around these things. I doubled down. And then once you get a chance to talk again, you say, well, look, Prime, there's a ways to get around these things.
You don't even understand the point I made, Prime.
You didn't even understand that.
The prime point I made, if you had listened, was that your pains are convenient.
I'm going to finish. Right? So of course you can. Of course there are ways around it. I know those ways better than you do when it comes to technology. I absolutely know those ways. Of course I do. But it's not that like they can't. I'm saying that like rather, and I laid it out specifically for you. Look, Gibbs, I laid it out specifically for you. I said, hey, like you should be able to interact with a modern economy, like while having granular control of your information. If you're in a paid service. So you shouldn't have to find ways around these things, around your ISP, around your cell phone provider, right? Around your car dealer. You shouldn't have to find ways around that. You should have granular control. And I said this, granular control of your private data. Granular control of your private data. That's what I said. And then you come back to me and say, and like ignore all of that. And say, once again, hey, you say they can't get around these things, but they can. This is what annoys me. Like,
well,
actually
that's
listen.
crazy. I didn't say that at all. You missed
Yeah,
my point.
you
My
did.
point was one. By the way, I'm going to get the clip in a second from the internet
You
thing
do that.
because I've already had the chat confirm. I said that several times. And we are in the share chat, and the people from not my chat said that, so that's cool. Secondly, here's the best part. I said once again, convenience. You're paying for convenience, and you don't like that these comforts are. Hey, guess what? They're using those comforts that you're getting, and they're selling that data. If you want a way around that, you can get it. And you said, no, it's not fair. It's so bad. How are they going to fly on the planes? Oh no, the planes. Oh, but guess what? That's the convenience you're paying for, and they're taking that data. So once again, sorry, bro, you're wrong, and you're just misquoting.
How is that wrong? How does that
You're
prove
not
me
even
wrong?
listening to the points
Doesn't
that I'm
prove me
making.
wrong.
You're
Hold on,
literally
hold on.
fighting
How did that
shadows.
prove me wrong?
I mean, it
did
proves
prove
you
me
wrong
wrong?
because I'm
How?
arguing, like the whole time I've been arguing
Sure.
that you're mad these companies are winning off capitalism. You're totally
No,
fine
I'm
when the
not.
government does it. Yeah, you
Oh,
are.
that's the other thing
good.
you said. You said
Yeah.
you're mad that they're making
You don't
money.
even know
No,
what
I'm
it
not.
is I'm saying.
They
That's the
should
best
be
part.
able to charge for a service and make a profit for that service. No one ever. Ali said that before. Hey, you should be able to make money off of your service. That's okay,
Don't pick on
right?
Ali. He's
But if
playing
you're doing
solitaire
that,
right now.
let's have granular control of this data. So any which way, sorry, we've gone over time. You can send me this clip.
I'll get it for you. 1 second.
Okay, all right. Any which way, guys. Thanks for being here all over time. I appreciate you all. Alexander Wynn says Guerrilla Internet made their own connections to the internet. What you're saying that people can't just sit at here and make their own internet. You win. Can't just I'm not sure. Sorry, Alexander, what exactly you saying here?
I think he's saying that like they made access to internet like through whatever, but they didn't create their own internet, which initially gives you were saying like they made their own internet, they made guerrilla internet, they made whatever.
An intranet. They made an intranet, which is a own
So,
closed off
someone,
internet.
someone else made a clip.
Korea has.
I'm gonna listen to this clip. I'm gonna mute myself. I'm gonna deafen myself. Someone made a clip, so I'm gonna.
They made an intranet. Is that a thing? I actually don't know if that's a thing.
North Korea has an intranet, for
That's
example.
what it's called. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Is it not? Is it? Are you saying intranet instead of internet?
Yeah. It's like so. An intranet is like a closed network, right, with access to a limited number of like websites, like North Korea, for example, has, like these other things. So they have intranets, their own closed off intranets that they've attached to.
So I just listened to the clip. I just listened to the clip.
If I find this in a second.
No, you don't have to find it. Hey guys,
I'm gonna find it because I know what I'm
saying.
No,
it's okay because I hold on. Don't worry. I'm gonna put it into our DMs because someone else already made the clip.
They found to find
so
one of them.
Everyone can listen to it.
Hold on, where I keep getting interrupted. All right, that's fine.
I just sent it. There you go. There you go.
Clip where I'm saying this.
No, not any clip. This is the clip that I responded to. Hey guys. Hey. Yeah, hold on. No, you got it out. Hold on. At the end of the word internet, after that, you don't say intra, right?
Do I
you
say intro when I'm trying to explain what I'm trying to describe?
You said
hold
internet.
on, do you
guys,
do you not interrupt me every time I'm trying to finish the sentence?
Hold on, but you had already finished it. Guys, Corey, listen to it.
I'll deafen myself. I'll be back in about 20 seconds.
Okay, he's going to do it. Lactoid, if you can listen to it.
I don't like it when mommy and daddy fight. I don't.
All right. Well, while you guys are listening to it, I just want to say that my eyes are way bluer than Gibbs' eyes could ever hope to be. And my name is Chai Bunny BBY on every platform. Thanks for having me, Prime. Good night.
Hey, Chai, thank you for coming through. Oh, okay, she's already gone.
Now, what this is interesting is because this charge is being led by which party? The Dems. So what you're sitting here and saying is, oh, well, people can't just sit here and make their own internet.
I heard INTER, not INTRA.
I didn't even know intranet was a thing, so I heard internet.
And so Lactoid?
In the clip, it's internet. I don't know.
It's internet.
I don't know if he said intranet at a different time. It's possible.
But to be fair to Gibbs, like Gibbs does sometimes slur his words sometimes. So maybe he meant internet.
Maybe he meant it. Hold on, I can say he might have meant it. Maybe he meant it. And that's okay because you can make your own intranet. Yes, that's the thing you can make. But the thing he said and the thing I reacted to was internet. Internet. And the clip. I'll put the clip into my chat.
Hold on, I'm gonna
You
find
said
it. I say,
inter.
hold on, sociologically. If
Yeah,
I
yeah.
find in,
There will
if
be
I
no
find,
public
hold on,
apology.
if I find there will be, if I find
No, there won't
myself,
be.
hold on, if I find several times where I say intranet, it's pretty clear this is bad faith right here.
I mean,
No,
I'm
hold
just
on.
saying
No,
in
it
that
isn't.
clip.
No, hold on.
In that clip. So when I find a different clip,
Admiral
me
Gibbs,
saying
Gibbs. The thing you're mad at me about, the thing that you're mad at me about is that you're saying I interrupted you and said that you. Hold on a second. No. You're saying I interrupted
he interrupted you. Yeah, that would have to be the clip.
That would be the clip. So you're saying I interrupted you when you were saying intranet, right? That would be the first time when you said it. That's when I reacted. The clip that we just shared was the first time, and I reacted. If you said it afterwards, well, then I do apologize. You said it afterwards, and I didn't hear you say it afterwards. But the thing that you got mad at me about was the first time. The clip that we just shared was the first time, and I said, and you said internet, and I said internet. Done. So there will be no public apology.
Here, if you find it from hold on, you literally interrupt me 5 times by saying internet here at 11 at the when we go 11 minutes ago on your own VOD, like 5 times, like you say.
I interrupted you.
I
but
say
hey,
intranet. I say intranet because you're arguing about the stupid. I can say an intranet, and you just keep interrupt.
Hold on. But do you admit that the first time, the thing that I originally reacted to, you said internet, correct?
No, I don't admit that. I
No,
said intranet.
it's in the
trying
clip.
to say intranet.
They all hear it.
Once
They
again,
all
I say
hear it.
intranet. Intranet
No,
several times.
you didn't say. That's not what you didn't say.
Hold on. When I talk about mesh internet, what is mesh internet, Prime?
Hold on. No,
what is mesh internet?
Don't give me that.
What is mesh internet?
Hold on. I know what a mesh. I know. Hold on.
I know what a mesh. What is
hold on. Listen.
Mesh internet?
I know what a mesh net is. I already know what that is.
You know what?
And so when I react to you,
internet.
Hold on. No, it's not an internet. It's not an internet. No, it's an no. Listen. It can be an intranet, but it's not an internet. The internet.
What I just said.
Prime, were you interrupting?
Oh my God!
I was interrupted several
times.
Guys,
I'm intra out of here. I think.
You okay, have a good one. Yeah. Sure. Have a good one. Thank you for being here. Good. Yeah. So don't bullshit me. I reacted to the thing that you said at first, and then you if you want to move the goalpost and say later on you corrected yourself.
Move the goalpost. I learned from you earlier in the panel.
Oh yeah, sure. Whatever. That's fine. You can hide behind it all you want. But we got the clip. I put the clip into the my chat and on Twitch. I can also put it in my YouTube chat. You all can see it. You can all see it for yourselves.
You can see it. You can see it. Timestamp in there, just like I said.
You can all see it for yourselves. And he said internet. And I thank you, Alexander Wynn. Alexander Wynn was the one who clipped that one. Thank you, Alexander Wynn, for that. But yeah, whatever. Once again, no public apology. I was exactly right.
I was right.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, except that like we have video evidence of you being
wrong. We also have video evidence that I'm about to present.
I gotta head out, you guys. I'll catch you guys later.
I literally say internet 5 times and you interrupt me several times. Hold on. He clicked the only one where he got me with
the first one, the initial one.
All right. Thank you guys so much for tuning into today's episode of Like Toy TV. We're gonna write on out, and I will catch you guys later. Good night, homies. All of you who gave bits and subs, really appreciate it.